Bonjour mes amis, bonjour. Bonjour mes amis, bonjour. Bonjour mes amis, bonjour mes amis, bonjour mes amis, bonjour. That's what they used to sing in school. I didn't go to French school, but for some reason we did sing French. Oh, hold on. French. It's gonna reverb. It might reverb me singing. I don't want that. Please don't let it do that. But yeah. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well today. We are indeed returning. Bonjour, mes amis. Bonjour. But it's night. Yeah. Maybe I don't understand French enough. I don't know. Anyways, I hope everybody's doing well today. I, hi, Chris. I hope you're doing good. I wanted to give you guys a little, um, moment from the newest video that I posted. I'm sure some of you have watched it already, and I appreciate you doing that and leaving your likes and your comments. But I just want to show before we get started, but I need to remember where we were. I think I do. Um, I mean, let's be realistic. We didn't really remember. We went back and checked right before we went live. Um, Take care, Chris. Thank you for stopping by. Okay. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna quickly play a bit from the newest video that I made, which is about a speeding traffic infraction. Hold on. Wait, can you see that? You can. So out of it already. Before we get going with this, that's not the part we're gonna watch though. What part are we gonna watch? We are going to watch. Oh, this part is great. So he is literally what's French for sleeping time? I don't know. Night. Nay, I don't actually know. I don't speak French. My daughter does. I don't. Nuit? Oh, and maybe it's nuit. Nuit. Yeah, it's bon nuit. I'm pretty sure. Um, or dormir is to sleep. Yeah. Do you know what's funny is that every time I would talk to my daughter's French teachers, they'd be like, "Wow, you have a really good accent." Or your daughter has a pretty good accent too. Like, do you speak French at home? I'm like, absolutely not. But I fake speaking French a lot. So that's where I get that from. Anyways, so let's just watch a moment of this. This gentleman is in front of this judge, and he has asked for a contested hearing. Okay, we know what that is. He's asked to argue. Yeah, cool, Leslie. Welcome. He is asked for this contested hearing, and then I just want to play a little bit of what he says because it's just part of how terribly this hearing goes for him.
I understand that the officer says that I was doing 56, and I'm in no way trying to deny the officer or deface, but I would like to say that I would never try to do 56 in a 35 zone in the area where we were driving. It was just out of the movie theater on Martin Way. I understand that a lot of people do speed through there, and I do try to make sure to keep up with the flow of traffic. And if I ever did try and go over the speed limit at all, it would be possibly over five over. But I can promise the court that I did not go 56 over. Okay. And I do have other people who were in the car with me as well who could vouch that I could not have been doing 56 as well.
So you tell me why you don't think you were doing, you're cited for 45 and a 35. The officer give you reduce that at their discretion, or the trooper reduced that at their discretion. Did find with the radar that it was 56, but why do you believe you weren't going speeding? You weren't going over 35?
I understand that the officer says that I was speeding, but I do remember seeing that the officer did make a U-turn right next to me as they were coming up behind me, and I did recognize that it was a officer's vehicle. In no way did I try and slam on my brakes or accelerate or anything. I tried to make sure I kept my pace.
Anyways, so you guys can check the rest of that video out. I just wanted to give you a little sneak peek. No worries, William. Go enjoy whatever you want to watch. That's the beauty of YouTube. It's a personal experience. Everybody gets to craft their own viewing experience. Our viewing experience is going to be uh not the rest of that together, although I thought it was really funny. I wanted to share with you guys. Um and Mr. Click, hey MB, honestly, I could not get away from the loud clicking in this video. Oh, sometimes the little things. I hope you guys will go and give it a watch. It's helpful to me. Leave a comment like MB did, like Vicky did. Appreciate it. A couple of the other guys, I really appreciate all the comments. Here we go with the remaining, or not the remaining. I mean, we've got a bunch of this fucking stuff. I've had a chair. I've been sitting on a stool for a little while. I'm just this is a long case, and where is it? Judge Jessica, the most Jessica judge in the land. Judge Jessica, she don't care about your plan. Okay, I can't sing. Okay, let's get going. Leslie, I think it's easy to, I don't know. Isn't it easy to become a member? I find it very simple to become a member of places. But again, I think we have a thing on. Um, I mean a command for that. But thank you for being here, Leslie. Appreciate it. Um, that would be weird, Nancy. She's never been here before. Okay, so as a reminder or a recap, this is part two, part deux, dos. Oh my God, my brain's so fucking stupid. Um, Ni, if you're talking about Japanese, I think. Chris Barton, press F5 or hit refresh. Chris Barton can't hear me, probably. Sorry, I'm telling her. Um, Anyways, so we started part one yesterday, 3 hours. Yeah, part of it was me talking. That's why I'm really trying to like hone this in. We're gonna get there tonight. We got a whopper left to deal with. Uh, if I recall correctly, and I put it into the right spot, Mr. Wolf is testifying. He is also pro se, aka representing himself. Hi, Mayor. Shove that food into that hole, baby. Um, Lisa B, thank you for being here. Uh, okay, so he, I think, is just finishing testifying, getting cross-examined. I think he's being cross-examined right now by her lawyer, who's sort of sleepy from last recollect. But anyways, let's continue on and we'll see where we do.
I will be concerned with it, but the levels were well in line with where they should be. And the fact that their levels in 2022 were much higher, and the fact in 2021 they were lower than 2020, I don't see how 2020 was a concern.
Do you have any sort of medical training?
I do not. However, I do show the levels were in the green where this notes triglycerides, and I can show by phone. I mean, I guess I could show by phone if that's admissible. Where I'm accessing the panel for Connor. I don't know where the camera, I guess here. And it
Right.
shows the triglycerides in green at 143. Now, if there's something from the doctor's office that's saying 143 is high and outside of the levels it should be at, I would assume, as the doctor told me, anything within the green is good, and at least not a high level concern. But obviously, there's ample opportunity to reduce that. But it's not to where it's a concern, as she's mentioning here, or something that would make it that I'm disregarding his health in any way. I thought, from what I understood, I believe it was like up to 150, and it says right here, up to 150 is in range, and he's at 143. So I don't understand why this has become such a focus, and you're using this as a means to show that I'm not being responsive or well responsive to that.
Well, then let's approach it differently. Can you tell me how frequently you call and schedule doctor's appointments with the doctors?
The only times I've done that is when they are sick.
First of all, I'd just like to make a note and let's try and remember that little phrase that she just used there. I really like that. Well, let's phrase it differently or let's look at it differently is such a like deflection, reassertion of power to somebody who just complained about something or like doesn't, you know what I mean? Like I just like that was pretty good. I'm gonna give that one to her. It's early yet.
And they are not sick here. I do not have those things happen. And sicknesses often, or I have a headache or something like that, are combated with simple over-the-counter medication. And I do ask them. I make sure that my boys are okay. I don't send them off to be in a state where they can't cope. And in fact, most of the time, if it's been a quandary between whether they should go to school or not, it's my son that's saying, you know what, I'll try, but if I can't, can I come home? Absolutely. And if you can't, make sure you see that nurse at the school before so she can help us understand what's going on. And we'll get direction after that from the doctor, but at least we know ahead of time. And she has insurance on the kids. For the decree, she's responsible for covering the medical costs per our decree.
Well, according to the decree, aren't you 50% responsible for covering medical expenses as well as that premium?
It's not stated that way in the decree. And I carried insurance all the years that we had the children. And I never asked for reimbursement for the times I did take the kids to the doctor, even up to most recent when I had to get contacts for my son. I paid that all out of pocket. I never asked for any expenses back. That was during my time. I understood that. And I'm not saying that it's during her time, you know, that, you know, I'm just saying that I'm not trying to relevant or reference that's her time and my time. And there should be an absolute divide with that. I simply knew that this was my responsibility. I took it on and I didn't ask for anything back because I knew the hardship she was going through anyway. I knew she wasn't going to be able to pay me. But her hardships don't fall because I've instilled that or I've not given her help. It's purely her own spending habits and things, but I won't veer from what the topic is. I apologize. So that is my answer though. The triglyceride levels were within range. 2020, 21, they were lower. And in 2022, that's when they became a concern and out of the norm. Thank you. Sorry, I'm very passionate being Italian, but I mean no.
Oh my God. Sir. Sir. I don't know. I guess I just liked put myself through this type of pain to listen to this. She married him. I mean, there's that, right? We're only dealing with a fucking hour. Altogether, maybe a day. Could you imagine being married to him? And I'm saying that knowing that I don't know if I'm even marriage material. But
I'd like to introduce exhibit number 3 from respondents exhibits.
Okay, did you offer R6?
I did offer R6 up. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I am getting a little turned around because we have a pro se party and I'm used to the procedure. I asked that R6 be admitted into evidence.
Any objection to R6?
If I could just
maybe I don't even know what it is yet. I'm afraid of what you're going to show up here. I'm worried about it. Nobody seems really on it. But that's what my face is, my trepidatious face, but let's see.
Familiarize myself with R6.
That's what was on the screen for the past 5 minutes.
Yes, well, absolutely. I have objections to that. I apologize, but I do have objections to the validity of that. Yes.
Well, state the objection.
Oh, what's he gonna guess the objection is? Because he thinks validity. So what the foundation, the authenticity, I guess he has to object to the foundation, or has it been put into evidence? Oh, wait, she's asking to put it in right now. He's gonna object on the basis of insufficient foundation and then maybe relevance, but she really shouldn't be entering exhibits on his with him as a witness, should she? Don't you do that on your own witnesses for the most part? This is cross-examination and a document that she's bringing up, I guess, to refute what he's saying. And so my whole point is that that's not ideal because this is not a good witness. This is a hostile witness for her. And so to lay the foundation, she has to lay the foundation with him as the witness. She's not a witness, she's the lawyer. He's pro se and the lawyer, so he's objecting, but he's also the witness. And if the witness is unwilling / unable to lay the proper foundation, or they're smart enough to know that they could be obstinate and not lay a foundation, then I don't think that it can be admitted properly without a foundation laid in cross. I think that she could save it and bring him back on recross later after admitting it through her own client. But I don't think that she can. I don't think if he's thinking about it, I don't think that it can be admitted via cross if he's not into it. Basically, he got a consent. Consent.
You have to have a legal objection to the admissibility of the document.
And validated contents, proof of other than text, or other than hearsay or authenticity.
Overrule the objection. R6 is admitted.
Authenticity, Your Honor. I apologize. I can't validate that that's the information that came from the doctor's office because I show otherwise.
The objection was overruled. The exhibit was admitted.
All right, let's take a look at respondents exhibit number 3. Your Honor, I'd like to offer up exhibit 3, and let's see if we can more carefully set this foundation. So
Thank you. Because we all agree that that was a piss poor foundation. If a fucking tornado of law came through, the foundation on that shit would be gone. And I think we can all agree that. So yeah, let's lay a better foundation because I ain't no lawyer and I knew that wasn't good.
all right, so this is an exhibit of text messages that you sent to the respondent on November 6, 2022. And let me see if I can get maybe a Zoom. Come on, zoom in for me.
Again, it does baffle me how people go to school for many years and still cannot function in basic computer stuff. But this is why fucking assistants reign supreme, right? Do you know how many jobs I've had where I don't have an education? I'm working with people that are very highly educated, but do you know who they call for certain things because I'm able to do them quickly and able to like make it happen? They call the secretary. They call the assistant. They call the, whatever. It's crazy. I always used to laugh. I'm like, what the fuck? You're an engineer or you're a doctor or you're a fucking vice president? Are you joking? Okay. Yeah, let me just show you how to do that. Also, like, how do you not know how to Google it? Yeah, best evidence rule too, Mike. Is it the best? That's right. So that's a good point too. So the best evidence rule is like, as a lawyer, you have a responsibility to admit the evidence or the testimony with the best available evidence. Therefore, I think you're right. I don't know that this would fall on, well, I don't know, because I'm not a fucking lawyer. I like to play one on YouTube. Not really, YouTube Daddy. Absolutely not. I don't even play one. There's no joke. There's nothing.
All right. This is a series of text messages sent by you November 6, 2020. Does this look familiar to you?
Yes.
All right. So you remember texting this, and these are messages that came from your phone,
Yes.
and you wrote this message.
Yes.
And this was in response to a request about what you guys were going to do about health insurance enrollment. Is that correct?
I'd want to familiarize myself because I wasn't aware of the content within what you guys were bringing. So if I could read the entire thread, that would be helpful to better answer that question.
All right. So you're saying that you do not recall and you need to refresh your memory as to the contents of this.
Yes, if you don't mind, please.
I have no objection to you doing so.
Could you do it out loud so that we could read it too? Because this has literally been chiseled onto a rock. Oh, remember that one case where the lawyer literally, it looked like they had fucking physically scanned a cell phone on a photocopier and then submitted that as evidence. It was just absolutely terrible. Oh, oh, Jesus Christ, my phone's ringing. Okay.
If you can scroll to the next page.
I'm only showing this to refresh your memory, not
Okay.
to do the entire extent of this.
Sure,
Just
sure.
to refresh if you remember this
I remember
conversation.
what I'm seeing. Yes, what I'm seeing, I'm remembering that.
One at a time, please.
Yeah, thank you. So from this part, and we'll go through what's relevant here, and you'll have an opportunity to say if you believe something is substantially different from what you said, and then an opportunity to cross-examine Ms. Wolf, who is putting this into evidence on our side.
But is she putting it into evidence on your side? Because at this point, you're in cross-examination. This is not happening. Hi, Lucy. Seriously, am I mistaken? Like, what is going on here in terms of this evidence? Like, I'm trying to recall the situations where they've had to present evidence before putting on their case in chief. But generally, if they're doing that, there's another lawyer involved, and that other lawyer is doing that job, worrying about that, not me. And the judge is not going to sua sponte make her stop necessarily. Sometimes you see that. So like sua sponte means like of their own motion. And judges can do that. They can make motions from the bench. But different different situations call for different measures, and so it's pretty rare. But we've seen it. For example, Judge Hagan, I remember one time calling somebody out from the bench about their sloppy, I can't remember what it was, to be honest. It was a mild rebuke in sort of internet courtroom terms, but it was big for him. If you watch a lot of Matthew Hagan, you understand, like, when he snaps at somebody and says, like, you need to be better at your job, basically, you're like, holy shit, he is in a bad mood. And Anyways, yeah, sua sponte means like from the bench or from their own motion. And judges can do that and they uphold in a court. But there's what you have to be very careful of is a judge can't practice law from the bench. And so what that means is the judge cannot become the de facto defense attorney for a pro se defendant when stepping in wherever they would normally as a defense attorney. It's a different role, but there are many points when a judge can do that. Whenever a judge is questioning a witness or uh I think usually just witnesses on their own, that's them doing that in a way. They're um taking on a line of questioning themselves because they want to know the answers and the lawyers didn't get to it. Generally, judges wait till the end of the testimony before they will ask any questions, I think in hopes that a lawyer would. Some judges would never ask any questions. Some judges do. Um, Oftentimes you'll find like smaller town judges or judges where they deal with situations a lot where people are unrepresented tend to ask more questions and be a little bit more inquisitive and take on a bit more of that role instead of trial judges that are dealing with many different attorneys. Follow-up questions again, and there's nothing wrong with that. And an attorney can object to, oftentimes what a judge will say is, "Hey, can I ask your client a question?" That's what they'll say to a client. So what does it mean to take a witness on voir dire? Spelt wrong, unfortunately, Lucy. It's VOIRDIRE. But to take them on voir dire or voir dire is to do what they call basically questioning within itself. So generally how questioning works when you're doing it in a trial setting would be that the prosecutor or the one side presents their witness, then the next side is able to cross-examine them. Now, what happens is if that witness comes up and starts to talk about something that the other side hasn't been made aware of yet, they can object to that. And one of the options to mitigate that sort of disadvantage, which is, hey, this person's bringing up a subject that we didn't know that they were going to talk about or are qualified to talk about, then what we are going to, we object to that. Now the judge can say, okay, well, we could let you voir dire the person. So out of turn, the other lawyer gets to start questioning that witness in its own little mini trial within a trial is what voir dire sort of means. It sort of becomes its own questioning period that happens before the questioning of the initial person who brought that witness forward. And it is for the benefit of the other side because they haven't necessarily been given that opportunity. Something where we see that very commonly would be in expert witnesses. So an expert witness may come up onto the stand and very quickly the other side will say, hey, I object to the qualifications of this witness. And then either they can lay the foundation for them to be an expert witness, or if there's no other side there and it's one, like this is when it's a lawyer against a pro se person, then the one lawyer will take that person under voir dire and ask them the questions to determine if they would be uh, able to be considered a expert witness, etc. I think that's right. I mean, somebody should double check, but I think that that's pretty close to right about. Anyways. Knives are life. Hope you're doing life are well. I hope you're well. Blah, 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 blah. I hope everybody's doing good. Lucy, thanks for the question. I love getting little tests on my knowledge. I don't know everything obviously, but I have watched a lot of court. A lot of us have, but I've watched a lot of court. And I used to work in many fields. I've had that's a story for another day. Where were we? Oh, he was talking again. Man. Let's get back to that.
in response to whether or not you were going to assist in insurance enrollment, this text is quoted, "I don't know what to tell you. My insurance enrollment is between now and the 13th of this month as well. But because you're deciding to be so heartless after I've been nothing but a perfect 50-50 co-parent and always meeting my obligations for covering half and even most of everything excluding this insurance that I've never been told an amount to pay, they don't worry, we'll figure it out, because if I put them on my insurance and I have to pay child support, I won't even have enough money to live off of. You make even more than me, even in one job."
Yay, tiny piggy, you're welcome. I'm always happy to explain. And also, if I don't know, I love to learn together. Oftentimes I have heard of different things or seen them, and different judges have different ways of explaining different things like that to pro se defendants, and that's where I've learned the most, to be honest. Listening to different instructions from different judges. So, like, some judges explain in landlord tenant cases, some in TPO cases, some in just different instances where there's not just lawyers present is where I tend to learn a lot about that, because you see there's this like lean of, at the beginning there's an explanation. There's not always help, but there's an explanation as to what needs to happen or what is going on. Anyways, let's continue on. I'm glad she read that out loud. Again, guys, I said this last night and I'll say it again tonight. When you are co-parenting, first of all, if you have to say that you're perfect, you're probably not. Like, I'm really trying to remember the last time I said, "Oh, that is perfect." It's a long time. That's an interesting thing to say. Like, I'm the perfect co-parent, really? I would argue that I am great. I'm bend over backwards to work together as a co-parent, but I would never ever venture to perfection and say that I'm perfect. Like, that seems weird to me.
And you work two jobs, so before I agree to anything, I'm going to reach an attorney. I've got to get everything filed this weekend anyway to contest all this. It's just funny because you cheat on me. I try to forgive it, ask you to stop. You promise me you will keep then continuing doing it. So at that point, making it very clear that our family meant nothing. So I do with any person would do with a cheating spouse, and I file for divorce. I've worked with you over these almost 7 years cohesively and helped.
I've worked with you over these 7 years, and yet I'm still bringing up that you cheated. So I'm over it, bro. I'm so over it. I don't even think about it all day long anymore. Just 60% of the day, I think about how you cheated on me. It eats me alive, but only 60% of the day. It used to be 100%. We've moved very far forward in the 11 years that we've been separated. Dude, move on. You have a future fiance who's not, is she allowed to be around children? Did we sort that out? Is she allowed to be around children? I don't know. I don't remember if we sorted that out. Also, it's Friday. Is anybody going on a date tonight? I would like to live vicariously through somebody tonight, so tell me all about it.
You out in many more ways. But want to make it so I can't live. And if you're trying to relate this to Sasha and what she may be doing in 5 to 7 years, should she become a doctor, there's nothing to say that this will even work out. So you're going to screw me for what? When we had the issue.
Whoa, Sasha's gonna become a doctor now? Sasha's the girlfriend. The future fiance. I'm so sorry. Future fiance. Future fiance is Sasha, but yet she's gonna be a doctor. This girl's amazing. Fucking lock that shit down. If she's gonna be a doctor, also gonna be a lawyer, wouldn't you lock that down? Tin Man, if you have a toothache, go to your cupboard, get out garlic. Take 1 clove of garlic, slice it almost in half all the way through, but don't make it in half. Make it so that it's still attached at the top. Go into your mouth and place that over top of your sore tooth and leave it there. If you don't believe me or you don't think it will work, whatever, it's not gonna hurt. Give it a try. Seriously, what the fuck? If you were Sasha and you're like gonna be a lawyer, gonna be a doctor, would you want to hang out with this dude? I don't think I would. He's so hung up on his ex. Like, is that hard to get past when you have somebody who's like, maybe did they date before he left her? Do you think he did? Oh, let's figure it out. Listen, guys, I fucking go with the garlic. And here's the thing. Up the hoo-ha, I've done it, Chris. It's totally fine. I put a lot of things up my hoo-ha.
Issue this last time, but the schedules, the kids were begging me not to have to go to court so I can see it after just a couple days and do as you wanted. But now you want to drag them through this court. Great parents, selfish as fuck, considering, apologies, Your Honor, it was in the thing. If you get and the fact that you make more than me and I've never once missed a commitment or not helped out in any way financially or thereafter what happened where you or need to hurt me financially after and I promise we're almost done with this. After I've done what are the kids, because you realize that this affects the kids more than anything. I've never spent my money anywhere else but the kids. Everything I've been doing, spending money on has always been for the kids. So now I won't be able to do so many things with the kids, but yet you're without for the kids.
For the kids, for the kids, for the kids. Also, apparently it was so impactful that Chris still remembers it. The garlic live. I will try and find it, MB. I have some actual like anecdotal evidence and sort of my own experience with garlic that is just whatever. But this text message is a nightmare. This whole relationship's a fucking nightmare. These kids are almost aged out. One of them's 17, one of them's 12. The other kid's like, I got 6 fucking years. That kid is freaking out about their older sibling leaving. Do you get that? That's probably because that is the only normal person in their house or in their life. We haven't even heard the other lady talk yet. I'm positive they're both fucky. I'm positive about it at this point. I'm 100% positive about it. Misery loves company.
Why? Because you refuse to do anything more with your jobs. Great, Mom. So until I hear from my attorney on what I should do, I'm unable to provide an answer until they have the ability to look at the entire case. And then the response is, the question is the same one I ask every year. If it's just easier, I'll keep them on my insurance. Do you agree that that is what you said in that exchange?
I agree that that is what I said in the exchange, with the understanding that she was responsible for the insurance. I was merely just trying to help out. Yes, I do.
And you see the following text at 12:30 a.m. I will have to speak to my attorney before answering. And following response, that's fine, but you only have until your enrollment period ends to decide. So do you agree with everything that you said in there? Do you stand by this?
I do.
So you believe you are a perfect 50-50 co-parent, no exceptions?
No, that matter of speech was not intended to be deluged or anything. It was a matter of speech. But no, I don't find myself a perfect parent.
You believe that asking for financial contribution to the children's health insurance is heartless. Is that correct?
No, otherwise I would not have carried it myself. I carried insurance for them all those years.
Well, you responded here that you said you're deciding to be so heartless after I've been nothing but a perfect 50-50 co-parent. And you agreed that the only question on the table was whether or not you were going to enroll the children. So my question is that what was the point of calling her a name if it's just a standard fare that you do every time because you're a perfect co-parent?
This is in Texas, Chuck. Also, MB, I'm so sad to hear that. I have Atomic Sour Haze, and you can see this is the Canadian THC symbol, but then actually here there's like an excise stamp, the Canada excise stamp. And these are also child-proof Ziplocs that are like hard to open. Sometimes I can't open them. Yeah, you could try weed for your toothache. But honestly, try the garlic. Don't be a bitch. Try it.
That pays for everything your kids need.
It was not, first of all, 2020. I mean, it was not my intention to say I was a perfect parent, and it wasn't my intention to use that direct verbiage to her. I mean, it's what is missing from this is that it included conversations beforehand over the phone or in person that made it so it was about a threat of, well, if this doesn't work, I'm just going to file child support. And it included her doing so in November of last year. But there's more behind this than just what is written on the text. I'm simply just saying, with everything that was said, both on text and not on text, I wanted to speak to someone else before putting something in writing, because there's a habit of spinning stuff as if I'm not trying to be understanding. I believe in anything. If I was required by the decree, that I would be covering it. It's not in the decree that I'm responsible for it.
All right,
And
council.
furthermore, I never got a bill.
We'll move
Oh.
forward. So, request.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I'm still proud of this. This is my diamond painting project, my second ever one. I love it so much. So proud of it. I want to work on another one, but I notice when I do it that I look down all the time. So when I do diamond painting streams, I just have it on my boobs and the diamond painting, and then I don't have my face on the screen. So I might set one of those up later. I mean, maybe I guess I could just do boobs. Well, we'll finish this and then I'll think about it. I'll think about how we'll do it tomorrow, because at some point, like, this is like, it's so nice to do. I love it. It's so relaxing. And these people are making me fucking have a headache, to be honest. They really are. And if you like boobs, then go back and check out my diamond painting video, which literally was the camera on my boobs and the diamond painting pretty much the whole time. Which is perfect for me because my face is like on the diamond painting. But I'm super proud of this. Also, I put a bunch of diamond painting stuff on my Amazon wish list because I'm like, eventually I need to cover this up so that they don't fall off. Thank goodness I'm talking about something, not body part. I gotta cover it up before it falls off.
It's time for our mid-afternoon break. We're
All
going to
right.
be in recess until 4 p.m. Until that time, you can mute and turn off your video.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Was the exhibit admitted before we go?
No, I interrupted you before you offered it. So
Okay.
you have to offer it after the break.
All right. Yes, Your Honor.
Judge had to pee.
All right, Mr. Wolf, we need you back. All right, Mr. Wolf, if you would go ahead and turn on your video again, we're ready to resume.
This is my second to next one. It's not even started yet. You can see it's all shiny. But that's gonna be fucking nuts for diamond painting, isn't it? See how there's little numbers on it? That tells you which color of diamond goes in each spot. Hi, ring light. How you doing? Look at the tiger's eye. Eye of the tiger. That's not even the right tune. You're so stupid. Insert silence. Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Wolf, this is Judge Mangrum. I need you to turn your video on. It's after 4 p.m. We are ready to resume these proceedings. Ms. Holbrin, before you resume your questioning of the witness, I just want to remind you that if for some reason this hearing does not conclude by 5 p.m. today, it will need to resume tomorrow. You have a conflict in the morning, which in all likelihood would mean it would have to be after lunch. So you have witnesses you indicated may have a conflict with tomorrow. So you may want to keep that in mind as far as using your time, because the proceedings will not be rescheduled just due to witnesses' calendars.
Absolutely, Your Honor. We understand. We're prepared.
Tiger before, elephant after. Tiger before, elephant after. Hi, Jonathan Miller. Hope you're doing well. We were having a debate about something that you probably could have helped us with about admitting evidence and a couple legal terms that I supposedly defined, but I'd love some fact checking from the smart people around. Voir dire. Can you describe what voir dire is, or voir dire, as Americans would say?
To produce evidence and testimony from various positions in case we do lose a witness. At this time, I'd like to ask for Exhibit R3 to be entered into evidence.
Okay. Any objection to R3?
No, Your Honor.
R3 is admitted.
And I'm going to try and progress a little forward because we have quite a bit of information that we have to get through that was not provided in pre-trials. Mr. Wolf, how frequently are you late to exchanges or requests?
I feel very seen. How frequently are you late to exchanges? I'm pretty frequently late. I don't know if I would call my YouTube streams exchanges, but I am pretty late. I can definitely do a custom piece for you, William, the exact same elephant, if you'd like. MB. Oh, so I got it pretty close. Okay, prospective jurors. But I'm talking about in the middle of a situation like this, in the middle of a hearing when a judge says, well, she didn't, but we've seen it. She asked it in another part or something like that. Where the witness, I don't know, maybe I totally didn't understand. Maybe I don't. Maybe I should just go to law school. No, I'm just joking. How I explained it was pretty good a couple minutes ago, so I can't repeat it. If you could just go ahead, zoom back. I sounded pretty smart before. For sure. Diamond painting stuff. Also, yes, I think I have my diamond painting. Oh, the establish the credibility or the ability of a witness to testify about a certain subject or testify in general. What's up, hoes? Amanda says, not much, bitch. Thanks for being here. I think I put on my Amazon wish list, which is linked on the link tree now. Um, glue for the diamond art, but I'm not sure. I'm not positive.
It's a change in time for exchanges.
By late, define late, please, so that I can answer.
After the time, sorry, after the time you're ordered to be there, which is currently, I believe, 6 p.m.
There are times where I'm never over 15 minutes, except for maybe once or twice, but there are times where I'm 6:08, 6:09. Yes, ma'am.
So would
Traffic
you,
is difficult, and I don't rush my kids when they're having to grab things that's important to them.
so you understand though that you're ordered to be there at 6 and you were admonished to be there on time during the temporary orders period hearing. Is that correct?
For a text message that Jacqueline sent me, there's a 15-minute allotted window that she
All right.
utilized.
Objection
So
non-responsive.
Sustain.
So you can't even recall my question.
I can recall your question. So sorry, according to what you're saying, being 6:08, 6:09, being late, yes. There are times I've been late, absolutely. I can't help traffic.
I recall the question. You understand that you were ordered to be on time after this was mentioned previously about late exchanges, correct?
It was never brought other than Jackie to my attention, and I do try to make that happen as best to my ability.
And what is preventing you, other than traffic, from getting there on time?
Ooh, I know the answer to this one. I know the answer to this one. It's his attitude. Yeah, he's in a bit of a dick mood. Also, I just want to give another teaser. Guys, this coming members only is going to be another look at the Ultimate Guide to TikTok 2023 edition. This is a hardcover book that I purchased, and inside are gems, absolute gems that, I mean, somebody curated for us. So please make sure that you have your gifting turned on, because this is going to be a members only, not to forget. It will be very fun. Oh my God. You guys, there's a fucking crossword puzzle we're going to do together. Okay? There's a crossword puzzle. A TikTok crossword puzzle. Updated for 2023. Also, we did already read through part of this. And again, we can determine together our TikTok handles. It's got a special guide, sort of like when you're picking your stripper name. And then also a few other fun little excitements. I'd like to point out that this book, hardcover, cost less than any magazine for sale at the grocery store, which is sort of weird to me. A little perplexing. I don't know if magazines are expensive everywhere else, but in Canada, magazines are very expensive.
Traffic, and if my kids forget something, which happens, and I have to drive back home, or if they're just, slower in getting ready, it's not in my intention. The 8 minutes or so, I don't get it. I always told her, if I'm late 8 minutes, then be 8 minutes late to me. I don't care. I am not trying to be.
Hold on, 8 minutes late is not really that bad. Like, it's not great, but like 8 minutes I was later today. I was later today.
Disruptive to what is required.
Are you saying you don't believe it's disruptive to the other co-parent to be late to exchanges?
I do understand that even a minute or two could be considered disruptive to anybody if they decide on that. Yes.
How often?
When trying to be there for that to be the case, and I'm always willing to have that be my end and disrupted if that is the case.
How often would you say that you're getting the children returned to your possession late?
In agreed upon times?
No, sir, I'm saying late.
But-
So you have, just to clarify my
I'm not
understanding.
there a
in the-
half hour early like she
Excuse
is.
me, excuse
Sorry.
me, for the record, please pause. We're talking about within the orders, you are permitted between you to make an agreement to adjust times and location. So I am specifically only asking when agreement has not been reached, how frequently is Miss Wolf late to the exchange?
I couldn't count offhand. I would say less often than anything.
Do you
I have no-
appreciate, oh, thank you. Do you appreciate her being on time?
Sure.
So let me ask you this. If the court decided from the evidence and testimony given in these proceedings that it was in the best interest of the children for Miss Wolf to have a standard possession schedule as primary, to have maybe joint conservator, sole conservator, that's a separate issue. But if there's a standard possession schedule, you understand that might result also in an order of child support, correct?
I understand that that could be the case. I would argue, other than on personal reasons, why that would be the case. Why? What could she use to require one standard visitation where I see less of my kids, and why that's a benefit to them? And I would like her to show how having that in place versus what we have now, 50-50.
Objection non-responsive.
Overruled.
Okay. So
All
maybe
right,
let me rephrase it just for you. I'm just trying to establish that you understand the way that these proceedings typically work is when we do a standard possession schedule, absent evidence of why we shouldn't, there's often child support, and wanted to establish that you know that. And you do know that. Yeah. Yes.
I do know that, and I know that when we started this, we agreed not to have that be the case. I don't see why it should change.
Okay.
Because
If it is ordered that you pay child support, medical support, will you abide by that order?
of course, I would have to. I would have no choice, and I would just argue the fact that I don't feel I should support what her mismanagement of money is causing. Both of us are single parents. Both of us are doing the same thing for the kids, but there's no reason to limit time or have me pay additional monies because of reasons that I can't control. And further, those medical bills and everything, I never received a bill for that, which is required. It's required within 10 days. I never received anything. It was just talk of what I owed. So that's all I'm going to say.
And you don't believe, let me ask you another question here.
Please.
In your divorce decree, you've read it, correct?
Correct. I'm not a lawyer, though. I'm a parent, okay? I know what's best for my kids.
Who thinks he's actually read it? You think he's read it all the way through, or do you think he got mad while reading it, stopped reading it, started Googling something? I feel like he may not have read it all the way through with the same ability or thoughtfulness that a lawyer did. Aw, Jonathan Miller, thank you so much. You guys don't know, honestly, I really appreciate all the comments and all the like chats and messages and emails and support that I get from y'all about making you laugh or being a good place to be. It's very sweet. Thank you so much. I love you guys. You guys are going to make me cry. Even though we all have to suffer dealing with this kind of shit listening to it, but somebody's got to do it. For their children, somebody's got to do it. And the witty banter, yes.
What's best in the contract. I understand to a degree and ask for help where needed.
Sir, I promise I will get to the point of the questioning where you'll have an opportunity to answer more fully. I'm just trying to set a foundation of the line of questioning so that it doesn't appear unreasonable and you know what I'm getting at. That's all. within the decree, I don't, I understand that you're not a legal professional, but you would agree that you are literate and sufficiently understand the terms of the original decree.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Within the decree, do you remember it talking about rights and duties?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What duties do you believe as a parent you have under this decree?
How I understand it, and based on what has been told me by attorneys, I am responsible for these kids to make sure that they have everything that they need and are covered 100% when under my care. There's a 50-50 split, so that is my understanding, and that I would do anything
I would do anything for them.
if it came out of my care and was given me the right way, like a bill. I've often asked for bills if that's what you're referring to, but that yes, I understand, and I would understand this as under my time with the children, I am absolutely 100% responsible, which is why I carried insurance for them and things of that nature. So if something came up, I would utilize my resources I put in place to make sure that these kids have everything they need. And I would not ask the mother for anything in return. Yes.
Ms. Hilbren, I just want to let you know, you've used about an hour of your time at this point.
Okay, and so we will have to conclude this side. Where I'm driving at with this is the hope of a more explicit duty here. Do you understand
Explicit duty. She said duty.
that as a conservator, you have a duty of care to the children, not just a right to make medical decisions, but a duty to get them medical care and let a doctor decide if they're in need of treatment and not decide for the doctor whether or not they need such treatment in advance and just forgo care?
If I'm knowledgeable of the treatment needed ahead of time, as it states in the decree that it's required, and
If I'm knowledgeable about it, my kid actually needed heart surgery, but I fucking have no clue about heart surgery, so I said no. I mean, who the fuck? What kind of stupid idiot would let a doctor do something to their kid that they didn't know about? Like, is that the reasoning? Like, what, what, what? Bye, Chris.
I concede to that, which is also a decision that needs to be consented through me. Absolutely. And I've never once not conceded to something that has merit or is valid. 100%. Even with the therapy, there's no issues other than the fact that she took him to therapy 3 times without me even knowing, and had a conversation with the therapist and disregarded what happens in our household so the therapist could have a full spectrum of what the environment is, both sides. If it's not, if something's not happening over here, it impacts what's being told to him that's happening, period.
Okay. So in the fall of last year, when Connor was still 12 and it was brought to your attention that he was exhibiting sexual behaviors in front of adults, and it was a request to take him to a psychologist for an examination and make sure he wasn't suffering from abuse.
Examination. Okay, hold on. First of all, 12 years old just sounds like he's not very good at hiding things. What do you mean? There's so many questions I have about that. I want to be serious about something. Abuse in any form of children is not acceptable. However, children develop at different levels and stages naturally without abuse necessarily around them. And as parents, we need to be acknowledging that and to be upfront of that. What I mean by upfront or ahead of is, so I used to run a parenting group or a mommy group where um kids or parents, it was a baby group, but we talked about lots of different things. And I, as doing my crazy research, already knew about a lot of like scary facts. And I used to do this thing where I would like tell people like, hey, did you know that the average age for the first time a kid these days looks at hardcore corn is like 11, 10 years old. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying that that's true. And what that means is that one of the most important lessons that I've taught my daughter and her friends when they're around is that corn is like theater or acting. It's not real. It's not how the average person's life looks. And so it's not a good measure to base your hopes and dreams on for what you expect as a relationship standard between people. And just because kids are interested in corn and interested in asking questions like that, nowadays they can just ask the questions. And if you think you have you have every device that they could touch covered, you don't. You just don't. But if you want to believe that you do and you feel the need to do it, go ahead. But again, the main conversation that you have to have with your children, and I would say you have this conversation when they were 10 to 11 years old. Earlier, if you give them the opportunity to access internet unfettered, you have a responsibility earlier to have this discussion. And the discussion goes like this. Someday, somebody on the internet might tell you that you have done something so bad that I will hate you. And I need you to remember that that is not true. And no matter what it is, you have to come to me and be understanding that I will go to bat for you and find them and we'll deal with them. But they're going to make you feel like nobody will love you anymore and that you've been the worst person in the world. And you have to remember that that is not the case and that that is their problem. And that regardless of how bad you think it is, this is the right place to come when something like that happens because I will fuck somebody up. Think about that. And I remember saying that to her and her young friends. I'm like, you think they think they're gonna fuck you up? You want to know what I'm gonna do to them when I fucking track them down? And they'll be like, but what if we took pictures? I'm like, well, what if you did? That's okay. I don't recommend it. I'm not advocating that. And again, here you have to remember what this part of this conversation with your child has is no mention of what they should or shouldn't do. It is only about a feeling that they may exhibit or a blackmail or situation that they might have happen to them. And you have to precede it with this conversation. When this happens to them, when somebody on the internet tells them you are so fucking worthless, your parents are going to fucking hate you. They are literally going to want to kill you when they find out about this. Your kid has to have a flash in their mind of the moment when their crazy mom was standing in the kitchen going, remember, I will fuck that person up. They're going to try and tell you this. And you need to remember it's not true. And so it has to, and at the young age, it might be like weird. Like you're like, my mom is so fucking weird, guys. I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. But the key is when in a year, 2 years, 3 years, when they're alone, when they're at a dark place and somebody is trying to take advantage of their feelings or their natural tendencies to doubt themselves or the ability for somebody to forgive them, you have to come forward and say, remember, it is okay to tell me that. Jonathan Miller, I've talked about sexting before. It does seem a little bit deep, but mostly this is something I've said lots of times, and it's just advice that I give to parents and I try and give to other kids is like, because I just want them always to remember that. Like, there is this, it's not the end of the world. People will say it's on the internet forever. Yeah, it is. Great. For sexting, I would say to a kid, I would say everything you write down is generally considered, I would say, etched in stone these days. But that's not the biggest deal. I would sit them down, and if they're old enough to be sexting, okay, you're dealing with a kid who's in their teens and they're dealing with another teen. That's pretty healthy to me. What I would say to them is, I would say, hey, dipshit, don't write down your crimes. Are you fucking stupid? Why are you writing down crimes? Go and have fun with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, but you can't be sending digital fucking evidence back and forth. Just look at them, talk to them about it logically. Hey, you're underage, and so the reality about what you're sending here is a crime. And I'm not mad that you're sending it necessarily, but you need to be smarter than that. That should have occurred to you first. Hey, this is an issue. And you can use that opportunity to explain to them, not that there's a problem with sending pictures. Of course, you're going to be sending explicit pictures. Most adults and most kids these days will end up sending explicit pictures to people they love, they think they love, or they want to love. So you don't need to be, and that's Chris, that's what I'm talking about trying to get ahead of, is the guilt. Um, what I'll say is that if you have a child who's too young to be sexting somebody, then you should be monitoring their device usage better and occupying their time with something else. Don't just punish them and then be like mad at them forever, though. That's what I would say. If they are fucking horny and like all into, doing, they're obviously got time on their hands and they're got a lot of energy, then you need to, if you're going to remove the device and say like, hey, you're not allowed the computer unless it's in the living room and we're all having family time, like, fine, do that. But then make sure that you do a decent amount of family time where you sit in the living room and you just monitor good internet use. And then secondly, you got to do something to replace it. So, hey, I don't know, horseback riding, fucking, if you're rich, I mean, I don't know. Are they learning how to drive? Are they coming up to that age? Teach them how to drive. Are they into like all those different things? You need to replace things without just punishing people. Because I remember back in the day just getting punished for shit and it lasting forever. I just remember being like, is this on the news cycle in our house or something? Like, is there a fucking bulletin board that I don't know about that we just reiterate the shit? Anyways, and the other thing is, again, how I started this conversation is, if you think that you are monitoring your child's internet usage 100% and that child is older than 7, 8, 7 to 8 years old, if they're precocious 6, you're not. If they want to, they will get around it. So again, the conversation that you have to have is about mitigating the risks. What is the biggest risk about the internet? What's the biggest risk? That child will literally unalive themselves because of guilt or shame. That to me is the biggest risk. Not that they're going to put their pictures on the internet. No, I'm sorry, that's not the biggest risk. So what you have to look at is the way to mitigate that problem, and you mitigate that problem by getting ahead of it and explaining that somebody will probably attempt to do these things and that you have to be prepared to see it. It's like when you're dealing with old people and scams. Nana, if somebody calls you from Microsoft, that's fucking not real. Like, that's the reality here. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, Mayor, predators are dangerous too. But if you've given your child this ability to come to you and say, hey, this feels weird, or I did something fucked up and now somebody's talking to me weird. When a predator starts to groom them, that child will come to you and that child will say, hey, this is weird, or this is not making me uncomfortable, or I don't know how to deal with this. If you've made them believe that they shouldn't ever engage with XYZ of person, and then they say, oh my God, I engaged with XYZ of person, and now I don't know what to do. I don't know how to disengage, and I don't know how to turn this around. So if you don't make it so that that child can still come to you and say, hey, I actually didn't listen. See, I've eliminated the whole problem. I never even said, don't do this. But most parents will automatically say, don't you send pictures of yourself. Don't be sending this. Don't do that. Don't. So you have a lot of don'ts to overcome. Oh, MB, you're too sweet. I love you. And again, this is advice to parents who actually want to engage their child in a like safe way. But um if you don't if the parents don't care, that's the way that is. And again, I'm not trying to say that it's normal or natural. And if a kid is young and doing certain things like that, look into that. But the whole point is that's a better way of making sure as a parent that you cover your bases of what the main issue would be. Hey, watch the show. Pele.
Use. I would like to know why you declined to give consent for that.
I worked with my attorney at that time, and it was my attorney that argued that point. It was a threat. There was a threat made from the people who brought that to light or made that accusation. I spoke to my child. I made sure that that was not the case. He absolutely was brokenhearted about it and stated very clearly.
I think I hit forward 30 seconds. Like we literally missed something integral here.
Do you understand that as a conservator, you have a duty of care to the children, not just a right to make medical decisions, but a duty to get them medical care and let a doctor decide if they're in need of treatment and not decide for the doctor whether or not they need such treatment in advance and just forgo care?
If I'm knowledgeable of the treatment needed ahead of time, as it states in the decree that it's required, and I concede to that, which is also a decision that needs to be consented through me, absolutely. And I've never once not conceded to something that has merit or is valid, 100%. Even with the therapy, there's no issues other than the fact that she took him to therapy 3 times without me even knowing, and had a conversation with the therapist and disregarded what happens in our household so the therapist could have a full spectrum of what the environment is, both sides. If something's not happening over here, it impacts what's being told to him that's happening, period.
Okay. So in the fall of last year, when Connor was still 12 and it was brought to your attention that he was exhibiting sexual behaviors in front of adults, and it was a request to take him to a psychologist for an examination and make sure he wasn't suffering from abuse, I would like to know why you declined to give consent for that.
I worked with my attorney at that time, and it was my
Can somebody put exclamation mark email in the chat? Jonathan, I would love it if you would send me your email and we could connect. I love that. Quick rundown, tons of fun carving. Yes. Here's a quick rundown for anybody wondering. This is a motion to modify custody where the children ages 17 and 13 are currently with their mother, who is pictured on the bottom wearing glasses. Uh, for primary physical custody. The father, pictured on the bottom, the only male on the screen, is the pro se defendant who brought this motion forward himself. He's seeking primary physical and legal custody of the children, and he is self represented, like I said. The woman above him, the blonde with the glasses there on my looking at right hand side, I guess. You know what I mean there. She is the lawyer for the mom. The lady in the middle is the court reporter. And then we've got the judge, Judge Mangrum over there. Judge Jessica, that's what I'm calling her. And this is the couple from last night. It's a continuation of that hearing. We are going to be watching it for a couple parts because it's so fucking long and they will not shut up. Neither will I, so I take half the blame. We are currently on, I guess, cross-examination of this pro se witness litigant who is representing himself. What else? I think that's pretty much it. Also, I went off on a tangent about kids. I mean, I've gone off on so many tangents. Yeah. Also, hit the like button, comment, subscribe. I don't know what else. Oh, also, Let me know what you had for dinner. If you didn't like what you had for dinner, tell me what you wish you had for dinner. Take your meds, smoke some weed if you want, /legal/good. Love it. Let's go.
Attorney to argue that point. It was a threat. There was a threat made from the people who brought that to light or made that accusation. I spoke to my child. I made sure that that was not the case. He absolutely was brokenhearted about it and stated very clearly that in no way, shape, or form would he do that in a living room, or he would do that at all. He admitted to having thoughts of doing that just as a normal teenage boy, which that's the progression of boys. And that's what my attorney mentioned. And it wasn't the fact that I refused therapy. It was the fact that she wanted to put him in therapy and attempted to without my knowledge again. And the only advice or statement that was made was, you need to check with us. And this is erroneous because there's no proof of this. And I'm not going to put my child through these proceedings and these allegations, interviews, when it's normal behavior for a boy. I'm sorry.
You believe that masturbating in front of adults is normal for a 12-year-old boy?
That is really dependent on who walked in on who. Like literally. You know, I don't think the kid needs therapy. I think both the parents need therapy to co-parent. Because at this point, this is just frustrating to watch them just unwilling to bend. It's frustrating. Why are they bringing this out? If it was a case, here's the point. Here's the point. Here's the point. One situation is this. Your child's in their bedroom at night. You walk into their bedroom at night and you catch them doing something. And also an adult? Which adult? There's so many questions that I have here that are problematic. And then you know about this. So it obviously wasn't secretive in the same sense of that. Somebody came and told you. If it wasn't if the child came in and said, "Hey, so and so walked in on me last night in my private bedroom while I was doing my private bedroom things. It was weird." Like that would be a problem. If the adult came to you and said, "Hey, I mean, I walked in on your child doing that last night," that's a bit weird. But that's not weird on the child necessarily. It's weird that the adult did that. If the adult walked in and then stayed weird, if the child walked into any sort of room that wasn't their private boudoir and then instigated this activity in front of an adult, that's a little weird. Yeah. We all know the different levels here. Like,
If done, no, but there was no proof that it was done. And Kevin and Lori had made threats to me in writing that watch what happens next with your family, because they felt I portrayed a negative outlook on their life that is only truthful. I had concerns. They were legitimate. I had reasons for those concerns. And because of that, they fired back with a threat that insinuated that they would attack my family or myself, and not in any particular way. So yes, when all of a sudden a week later that happened, and it's never been a habit, never happened here. It's never even been an interest of him. He is a boy that enjoys video games more than anything. He didn't even like girls at that point.
Are you aware that we expended over 8 hours of attorney time, exhausting all of the respondents' financial resources, battling over that issue, and that is why she was unable to afford legal counsel after that window of time?
Well, had she conducted the process the right way, according to the decree, and made me knowledgeable, and we were able to validate that in any way, absolutely, there would have been only an expense shared if that was the case. I've never refuted to share allowances. It's just she never came to me with a bill that's required, and I don't trust her spending habits and where that money would go.
So if I gave testimony,
you don't get to pick, dude. You don't get what you also, she's a maker. First of all, thank you so much for your proof of life comment that you left on the video the other day. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Also, a little announcement for anybody who's a lurker slash somebody who's been here before but hasn't been in a while. Come on back if you want, if you can. If you can't, that's okay too. We're worried, but we love you. It's okay. We know things happen in life. You come and go. I want a come and go shirt too, by the way, Pass. No, I'm just joking. If Pass Nola is still here. Um, come and go is it a gas station? Anyways, um, I I just want to say thank you. And I know what it's like. We all have lives. Sometimes you get in and out of a habit. Maybe your job changed your hours, so you can't watch lives anymore. Your kid's fucking needy, or you know what I mean. Like you're fucking I'm just a large pass so that I can work out in it. You should not. I want Mikey to send me. He told me didn't they send him two? He should just send me one of them. I'll take the cum one. You know I would. I want one with cum on it.
Testimony today, since I participated in that attempt to get that during those hours because I was limited retain at that point. You do not believe that my testimony would be accurate if I said I personally requested and spent hours on the phone begging this other attorney to allow us to take this child for an evaluation, and was directed that you had declined and would not give any consent to psychiatric treatment of any sort.
I was not aware of the time you invested. I can understand your feelings behind that. However, where is the truth, and why is that? You know, where's something that nothing was brought to me that showed validity with any of those accusations, especially when they came from two people that threatened me, and those behaviors have never been exuded at all.
Can you explain to me what the harm would have been meeting your duty and giving consent to the psychological treatment? What do you believe the harm would be for him to have gotten that evaluation?
Exactly what harm it brought when she brought him to therapy this time. She made him feel like he was solely responsible for causing this situation with his brother, when in fact there were other things behind that we know his brother, and his brother wasn't asked to go to therapy too. It's the way it's handled. It should have been that if there were concerns, especially interaction between the two, that both go into a therapy type setting so they both can find ways to constructively combat that and fix that. But in this case, there were only threats made. There was no validity. I'm going to talk to my son. And it was very clear that that was not the case, and that did not happen.
Okay, I'm actually leaning on his side at this point. He sounds really rational about this. Hey, our older kid jerked off all the time. We didn't deal with it because we knew it was normal. And now that the younger kid who wants to sleep in office by himself, no doubt because he wants to jerk off, like I don't understand what the issue is unless there's some weird sexual content going on or contact going on. These sound very age appropriate activities. Again, is this what he's alluding to at the beginning about the kids not having anything else to do but electronic activities? Because if that's the plant that he was planting, he did not plant it well. It's not growing.
Understand if there was anything brought to my attention that was true or could show a possibility of it happening, absolutely. It's just no one's nature to do something like that in the middle of a living room. It's just, and it's definitely not his habit or his trend or his in his.
What? Say it again so that I can be embarrassed again.
My son, and it was very clear that that was not the case, and that did not happen. I understand if there was anything brought to my attention that was true or could show a possibility of it happening, absolutely. It's just no one's nature to do something like that in the middle of a living room.
Yes, it is. Yeah, actually. Yes, it is. I dated a guy once who I was like, "Hey, we should close the blinds." And he was like, "No, I don't close my blinds." And I was like, "People can see in." He's like, "Yeah, I bet they like the show."
It's just, and it's definitely not his habit or his trend or his in his mind to do so. He feels insecure about being outside of his home. I don't see. There's too much that didn't add up.
If you're very concerned about how this process is impacting Connor, can you explain to me why he has awareness of today's proceedings?
He knows we're going to court. It's not something we could hide. This has been going on for so long. There's nothing more that we can say than, hey,
Mm, listen, all the ladies out there, all the men out there, anybody out there who's had a job they were fucking ashamed of, or just a situation where they had to keep a secret, knows that you can keep a goddamn secret, sir. If you treated getting, like going to court like a secret, you could. You could not talk about it with teenage children. You don't need to vent to them. You don't need to include them in your fucking court scheduling. Like, there's no part of that that's necessary. Even if you could just say, I have an appointment. If they were like, hey, dad, can you drive me to school on this day at this time? Actually, kid, I can't because I have an appointment that day. I'll get you an Uber. I'll do this. I'll do that. There's absolutely no reason, and the judge knows it too. What he's saying is really, really immature and doesn't bode well for him, because what they should, because the lawyer's right to bring that up. If the child found out about that somehow and he said, well, dad told me. What are you talking about? Like, I'm sure the kid was incredulous because I'm sure dad talks about it all the time. So that's not good. That's not going to work well for you. My kid didn't even know we were getting divorced. Like, when it actually happened, like the court part of it, like we were divorced for a couple months finalized before she was like, oh, like it came up somehow. She was literally like, you should, I don't know what the conversation became, but there was some accusation of me trying to like not, I don't know, basically be like married twice. And I was just like, dude, I'm not even married. I'm divorced, first of all. Second of all, I'm not trying to get married at all. Not even twice, not even once at this point.
tomorrow I'm going to go fight the fight for you. That's the best I can do. He's not giving details by me. I'm not going to put my kids through that. I try to avoid my fiance being brought into this.
So you're aware of the standing order that directs that you are not allowed to be speaking about these proceedings with the children, and that
I don't.
all right. So you don't know that the standing order directed you not to speak about this with the children.
No, he knows that I'm in court today fighting this case that has been made aware to him by his mother as well. And because
even the use of the word fighting is wrong. Hey, Jonathan Miller. Yeah, and I know judges would order parents and guardians not to discuss court proceedings, but a parent or guardian in their right mind with the cognitive ability to recognize the discomfort and like detriment that a court case about a child's parents causes to that child would already know that and not be mentioning. It's when you have parents that confide in their children, and it's very, very sad because those children, I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I'll be on my high horse here, but I can tell you right now, I never said anything bad about my daughter's father, and I don't hate him. I'm very happy for him, and the thought of like disparaging the parent of a child. Although what I will say is sometimes you don't even realize what you're doing. So, for example, my daughter, as children do, sometimes makes faces. And sometimes those faces remind me of a face her father makes. And her whole life, no matter if we were together or not, whenever she would make a face like that, I would say, "Oh my God, you look like your father." Now, I was waiting, like, I can't remember what I was reading or watching, but somebody literally used that example. They said, "Hey, when your child is a child of divorce and you look at them in the face and say, 'Hey, you look like your father,' or 'You look like your mother right now,' when you do that, you have to remember that you have said to them in any or whatever way that you've ended up doing it, that I don't love them in the same way anymore. We're not together." However your child interprets that, however you manage to get that message across. So when you say to them, "You look like your father right now," they might interpret that and say, "You look like that person I don't like anymore." Now, that's not maybe what you meant. It's not what I ever meant, ever. When I say that about my daughter, because again, it's something I've said her whole life. But when I was like that was brought to my attention, the way that I thought about that, I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting," because you can imagine if a child has had a negative connotation with parents like these who are fighting constantly. And let's say the same situation happens and the mom says, "Oh, you look like your father right now." Well, if the kid already knows the dad's an asshole or whatever, or mom really hates him because she tells him about it or whatever, that can be internalized by a child in a really negative way. That's something I never thought of. And that is something that I thought was innocuous. That wasn't bashing my ex at all. But now that I've heard that and seen that, I recognize that and I try not to do it. But internally, when she does something like that, it actually makes me happy. I think it's so sweet and cute when I see a trait in her that I know from him. I hope that the same happens for him. Like when he sees her do something that I've obviously imprinted, I would hope that it's sort of cool. Like there's no negative part for me. And so when she becomes an adult, I'll be able to do it again properly. But I just think it's unfortunate that you have to worry about that, but kids do internalize things differently. They deal with kids at school whose parents might hate them as well or hate each other, even though their parents don't hate each other. They might interpret things differently just because you've gotten a divorce, you know? Yeah, you're just like your father, right? Um, and again, like people tell me or used to tell me quite a bit that I sound like my mother a lot. And I would be like, "Oh, dang."
His mother shares all this stuff with everyone else. It's in this world. They know what's going on. I'm not going to keep them in the dark that, hey, we're in a custody fight or, we're in a custody dispute and what happens in court is going to determine things. But I'm not telling them that this is going to happen or that because I don't even know what's going to happen. I didn't expect for any of this to be the case. I don't know why we're here and fighting for what is good here. I'm only fighting for what I'm concerned with. I'm not even saying that I never refused medical payments. I never refused psychologists, anything like that. But I do ask for validity with things that are so impactful because he is timid. He's scared. His mother was part of those sessions sitting right there in front of him. It is stated in the psychologist's notes. It wasn't acted upon right. It wasn't a place where he felt free to talk. And the psychologist mentioned that along with the fact that he's only comfortable talking to me. That's why he comes and shares this stuff with me. And I will never let that transparency go away. That's the bond I've created with my child. And it's consistently tried to be broken. And it doesn't do anything but hurt these kids. I don't understand why we're trying to argue differently on that.
All right, let's move forward because there's some missing information that we have. During the last setting, we had some missing pretrial information that showed the schedule of your expenses. Should the court rule in your favor in the way that you've petitioned, and it is the court's discretion whether or not child support would be waived in that scenario. So Miss Wolf has provided her financials. Were you ever able to file and provide your financial information prior to today?
My attorneys did file my financial information. It was given to you guys. It was requested back when I had him as counsel, and he provided that. We provided that to him.
Are you speaking about over a year ago?
I'm speaking when I had counsel and it was requested of me. I provided that documentation. Yes, ma'am.
All right, but for this hearing, for the final hearing that required you to do complete pretrials, and the clerk rejected the pretrials that you were submitted and completed, and you were noticed again before the last hearing in this one that it would need to be provided, did you have difficulty getting those numbers?
Yes.
Is Jonathan Miller leaving? Did you say Jonathan Miller? No, you're not leaving. I thought somebody was saying, Nancy, you're fucking everybody up. Oh, you're going. Good night. Good night, Nancy. Good night.
I'm not.
Are you currently employed?
I have started my own business. So I have my own business. It is in place. It is registered with the state. And because of the turmoil, I haven't been able to do exactly what I've wanted to do with going forward and making solid money with it. So I am in the process of doing this. So probably a bad time to start. But yes, I am self-employed. And the record I have is that of my paychecks from earlier.
Okay, this is not Shark Tank, dude. You got to tell your fucking like, what is this? What is it?
This year when employed by an actual institution, which was the insurance company. And then I have record of rent that I get for the space that Sasha allocates or is a part of.
Can you just tell me what was the either biweekly or monthly amount when you were still employed by somebody else earlier this year?
It was roughly on a paycheck, $1,200 take home net pay.
Okay. And with it, that was per paycheck twice monthly. So would you say
Yes.
$2,400 a month? Okay. And then you said
You got to be careful on that. You know, you can get RSP deductions and different savings deductions off of your paycheck ahead of time, and it's not really the right number. You got to be really careful about that because I think it's fair to take the gross pay. That's the right one, right? Not the net pay. Anyways, but whatever one it is, I think that's fair, but my whole point is that people often get shit taken off their paycheck and then they'll be like, yeah, well, I only make $1,200 a month. Yeah, but you take $900 a month off for your savings. So that counts.
you were also receiving rents.
Yes, ma'am.
How much is that?
$1,600 a month.
So earlier in this year, you were netting $4,000 a year.
A year? No.
Or a year. I'm so sorry. $4,000 a month.
About that, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And for
For the
now,
months I was employed. I'm sorry. For the months I was employed with Progressive, yeah.
I understand. And so now, how much money are you taking in a month?
It's honestly just that rental amount of $1,600.
And can you tell us what your profession is?
I opened up an insurance agency. So my profession is an insurance agent. I'm licensed in all states.
Okay. And was the amount that you were making earlier the year pretty standard of what you've been making in the past few years?
Relatively so. I mean, I was there for 4 years. So for the time that agrees, yes. The raises were minimal.
Okay. And do you anticipate being able to, running your own firm, get your income up to that $2,400 a month amount?
Absolutely.
How long do you think it's going to take you to start earning that from the new business?
There's just more involved with actually opening an agency. So I would say I'm at the end. I hope to get it all going by the first of the year. I really do. That's my goal. And to start generating money at that time. Absolutely.
And you didn't quit your job during the pendency of these proceedings in order to artificially reduce your income, correct?
No, and then no, absolutely not. I was
Why,
simply. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
why did you terminate your employment and not keep your employment while trying to get the business going?
There were concerns with the business that I was doing that I didn't want to be a part of. I chose to leave that company because if I had not, I probably would have had issues with opening up my own company, and I didn't want that.
All you could say is it would be inappropriate for me to be you working on building a new company of the same nature while working at another one, and the implicit poaching of clients would be something that I would want to avoid tarnishing my professional reputation for. So therefore I had to leave my former position with a multinational insurance agency in order to open up my own insurance agency, obviously.
And is there a reason you didn't get full-time employment to replace it while you were starting your business? Was it too time demanding? Why would you say that
I
you're
was
not?
still able to provide everything I need. I don't have a house bill or anything like that because of what I've been able to do in the past, and I've never once missed on anything that I myself or anyone in this household has ever needed. So my focus is more towards building the business.
So you have had, you believe, the funds to equally contribute to things like medical expenses or the premium copays, that kind of thing, but you declined to make those contributions timely because you did not receive bills as you believed you were entitled to under the decree.
The process with the decree was not followed, and therefore I was never given any ample evidence of what was needed to be paid and record of that being paid to that place that I was comfortable with. Correct.
So to be clear, you do not believe that your co-parent would tell you the truth.
No.
So even if she was 100% telling you the truth over and over, you do not believe that she would be telling you the truth. And so her word isn't enough to make a request. You would need those invoices and these extra steps in order for her to get reimbursement.
For these reasons exactly, yes.
Do you think that she arbitrarily enjoys scheduling doctor's visits for the children?
Enjoys. I don't see how that's relevant. I don't know how to answer. I don't want to give hearsay. I don't want to give an opinion on that. It's not.
She's a party, and you're able to give a present sense impression on why you believe that these doctor's appointments are happening that are not necessary. So what I'm asking is, what is the grounds for your basis that these medical expenses are not needed, or that she would be lying to you? What's your basis for believing that?
Because she's going around. I have documented circumstances where she is going around the doctor's diagnosis himself and using her own thoughts or thoughts of what the child needs to pursue other avenues, and it comes out to be, in fact, not valid. Meaning the avenues that she went to try and see if there was more, there was nothing there. So there was no reason to go that route.
But if you believe that, why aren't you calling the doctor's offices directly, since you have access to the medical records and can confirm with them directly? Why should I want?
Sure.
Why are you not calling and following up on that if that's your position?
I'm actually going as far as being a part of those appointments, which I had to do, in which she spoke for my son to the doctor. She clearly overrode what the doctor's statement was, that this is not a GI issue. And further, she allotted to or admitted to the fact that she was giving my son medication without his knowledge, all within that one meeting and appointment that I witnessed and was there for. So I made it a point to be a part of it. That was my concern.
So, I'm sorry, I think I have this wrong. So you've participated in just one doctor's appointment for which child?
First of all, I participated in the one doctor's appointment that I was aware of ahead of time, where I actually had the ability to be a part of before, as opposed to being told that this is what happened or not being offered information as to when an appointment is or anything like that. So when I was told, and especially when it related to something like that, and I knew the reasons for those things, because it had been a statement throughout the years with the doctor, and she was unwilling to change those habits. So I wanted to be present for that appointment so that I made sure that he was able to speak for himself, which was trouble in itself to be done. He wasn't even able to speak for himself. She was speaking for him on many occasions, where I had to ask, please let Braden, he's 17 years old. He can speak to the doctor. Let him talk about his poop. Excuse me. But, I mean, so yes, that was a concern. And I was finally given the information at that time because she was trying to keep everything level, which was great. That's what I want out of this. I want it to be open communication where I'm involved or have the chance to be involved, but I haven't had that opportunity before.
You have been a joint managing conservator since the time of the divorce. So if this was such a problematic situation, why did you not take over responsibility for scheduling these doctor's appointments and making them happen if it was if you didn't approve of how it was being done by the other co-parent?
Valid question, because I was not informed until after the fact. That's the reason why. And when I was informed and I had the opportunity to do so, I took every step other than she has the insurance. They're under her, and in the decree, and if it's not about the payment, it's just a mere fact that that's under her time. So she took him to the doctor. That's only, I wouldn't schedule an appointment when it's her time and she's noticing these things or having these concerns. But if I have the opportunity to be there and be a part of it, I will be. And that was the only time. And I'm here and I've been fighting this fight for those reasons. And the reason for the motion of enforcement is because she's not providing that information to me ahead of time, and she's taken upon herself to do these things without telling me first.
Well, let's narrow this down to a very specific kind of serious example of one of your possession periods. Is it true that when Connor was, I believe the age is 4, but when he was much younger, that he got hit in the head with, I believe, a baseball bat or a baseball?
Okay, it was in our backyard. The kids were playing. He ran up into my son's area while he was swinging a bat. Not hard. It was just like, like a practice, like just illustrating a swing. And it hit him in the back of the head. Yes, I did everything I could to, console him, make sure he was, coherent. There was no cognitive issues. There was no, his vision was on point. He cried for a bit and he was fine. Shockingly enough, I was amazed too, but there was no, I watched over him those remaining times. He didn't fall asleep. He didn't feel like he was dizzy. There was no signs of anything further. So no, I didn't run and call an ambulance or take him to the ER, but I made sure that he was okay. If there were any signs, I would never hesitate. As a parent, like I said, I'm a parent before I'm anything.
Can you explain why his pediatrician still had signs of concussion 2 days later when Miss Wolf took him to the doctor after finding out about the incident?
Okay, that was never brought to me, first of all. I was never aware of that. And furthermore, I don't see how 2 days later, I mean, I'm not a doctor though, but I would want to know how they could say that I did not do what I needed to do at that time.
Oh, bud, that one's pretty simple. Hey, welcome to the ER. How can I help you today? Hi, my child just informed me that they were hit in the back of the head with a baseball bat 2 days ago. Oh, okay, yeah, absolutely. We will get working on that right away. Can I ask why they did not come in sooner? Well, he, he was with his dad. That's exactly how that went.
With no showing of any signs. I mean, I get the fact he was hit in the head. People fall, but I've fallen and cracked my head open, but it didn't mean I had to be rushed to an ER and there were issues with my concussion. It was merely the fact that I needed to get staples or something, but
So Mr. Wolf, so you have access to the medical records. You say that you are participating. Can you explain to me why you're unaware of this situation?
I have not seen a medical record that talks to that at all, nor was I informed that he was even brought to or that was the case. I would expect that well, furthermore, I was just given access to the medical records, okay, because she didn't even provide my information to the doctor's office about contact when she should have, especially if she had insurance. I was never given her insurance information, so there was no way for me to check. When things got a concern of mine and I started seeing inconsistencies and troubles and I had questions, I went and made sure my name was on there and I had that access. And during that time, no, I didn't go back 12 years ago, or 10 years ago. I didn't. To look and see if God at that moment was anything done. That was not my intention. It was never brought to me, so I was unaware. Okay, that's trying to make something out of nothing, and that's the only thing I can say. I mean, if she did her due diligence and informed me, believe me, I would have been concerned. I would have taken it myself. It wouldn't matter. When
Did you
there's
tell her that he had gotten hit in the head with a baseball bat?
yes, absolutely.
And did she request that you take him to the doctor to be examined for
No,
concussion?
she asked what happened. Was he okay? What took place? Was he injured? No, there's no visible injuries. He was cognitive. He was okay. He cried for a little bit and was fine and went to continue playing. I watched over him and that. Yeah,
do you feel like that's representative of how you make care decisions about whether or not one of the children needs medical attention?
No, because if they need medical attention and it shows, I'm going to give them medical attention. Like I said, I carried insurance. I've never refuted taking them on my own to go see a doctor, but under her, I can't.
Dude, maybe this is just my Canadian showing, but the amount that you've mentioned insurance, like nobody gives a fuck who the fuck is paying for it. The kid gets hit in the head with a baseball bat at any measure. I mean, unless you saw it, and the child that hit, I mean, there's so many factors. You have to take them to the doctor. You can't let somebody get hit in the back of the head and you walk it off. They can't do that in baseball anymore. They can't do that in football. You can't be doing that. They have concussion protocol. Treat your children at the very least how the fucking sporting coaches would, right? Like, maybe they can walk it off. That would be great. But in Canada, see, there's no real insurance question here. That's not coming up. Who's paying for it is not part of the equation in Canada. Who's going to sit in the ER is the question. Who has to sit? I'm not joking. That's a discussion my ex-husband and I used to have. My daughter swallowed a penny once. I did not believe that she swallowed the penny. I said, "You swallowed a penny. Why the fuck would you do that?" And she said, "I just did. I'm so sorry." And I said, "Philip, I think you should take her to the hospital." And I made him take her. And guess what? She did not swallow a penny. But my mother had told her a story that day about swallowing a penny. Thanks, Mom. But I'm glad that I didn't sit in the hospital for that one. But we still did. I mean, I made him go. I would have gone if he wasn't around, but
I'm not in control of that. She doesn't make me aware, so I can't be in control of that or knowledgeable of it.
Mr. Wolf, you were in possession of Connor, though. Why would she need
I said when I stated when under my possession, I would have no problem taking him to a doctor because I carried insurance for them. It's never been a financial burden for me to have them see a doctor. There's never been a reason for me to do so that hasn't been or that's been presented.
oh, payback's a bitch though. So now every time we go to the hospital for any reason, my daughter will be there, like, and now obviously she's older, so she only goes to the hospital if needed, like really serious stuff. But I'll still joke. I'll be like, yeah, you'll notice that she claimed that she swallowed a penny before. And then they look in the file and they're like, "Oh yeah, look at that." And then she was like, "I did." And I'm like, "Peyton, I mean, you didn't. You just didn't. I'm sorry. You didn't."
Where I neglected to do so. That
All
did
right.
not work with the doctor.
Well, Your Honor, I have additional exhibits that this witness would be able to testify to, but they're exchanges between both parties, and I feel like we've used a substantial amount of time here, so I'd like to pass the witness at this time.
Okay. All right, Mr. Wolf, Ms. Hoberun has passed you as a witness. So at this time, if you have any redirect, that is any additional testimony to respond to some of the issues that were raised on cross-examination, now is the time to do so. Or if not, we'll move on to the next thing.
I appreciate that the council has not objected to stuff I've only been able to say and not show via the screen, so I appreciate that. But I also know that that testimony, without being able to show it due to technical difficulties, does not stand up, I'm sure. So at this time, I don't, because it would be only something that could be argued as hearsay because I don't have the ability to show it to the court. So I choose not to waste the court's time and understand that this is
Okay, so apparently I just closed that. I'll just reopen it. It's not a big deal. Can somebody scroll back a minute and see where we were? Minute-wise, I think we had like minutes left. I don't know how I did that. Seriously. Oh, who the fuck's Desiree? We didn't have her before. Legit though. I can do it on my phone too. If we need to. I don't know how I closed that, to be honest with you. Oh, where were we? Oh, where were we? Hi, Shadow Night Wolf and Tiny Piggy. I'm such a freak. I need guys in the truck. I wish I had guys in the truck who didn't close things while I was watching them. But I don't. So instead, I have Jonathan in the chat, or I have Paisley on her phone. Let's see which one it will be. Well, that was concerning. It didn't say I was live for a second. I don't need mods. It's not the same thing. That's a weird thing to ask mods. Like, hey, by the way, I fucked up. So can you just like go back and see where I fucked up? But that's pretty much the most common thing I ask mods to do. Here we go, though. I found it. I'm Gouda. What does that say? 13 minutes. Is that 13 minutes or 10 minutes? 13 minutes. 30 minutes. Oh my God. 30. Oh, jeez. There we go. Thanks, Jonathan.
You have a tendency to speak very rapidly. My court.
Listen, Judge, I know that. Honestly, sometimes I just replay all that rapid speech back to myself all day long, and I don't need your fucking attitude about it. I just closed the video, had to restart it, had to ask for some help. So could you just not? And yes, my name is Paisley. Tons of fun carving.
I really did, Your Honor. I'm really going to work tomorrow to get a different device. That's a 100% a goal, and to understand the Zoom on that device before coming into the hearing. I hope that with the testimony I've provided verbally, that I could just simply show the proof, and if it's argued, then it's argued, but just move that way versus having to explain it all again. I'm sure that no one needs to hear that or wants to have me repeat myself. So.
Okay, before we proceed on a couple of things that I want to make sure everybody is aware of. My court reporter has been struggling with this hearing. Everyone so far has done a poor job of speaking one at a time. And that goes for both Mr. Wolf and Ms. Hoprin. You've interrupted the court. You've interrupted each other, and you've done so repeatedly. That needs to stop. Also, Mr. Wolf, you have a tendency to speak very rapidly. My court reporter is trying to get an accurate record. I know I'm having trouble just keeping up with hearing you. I can't imagine how her fingers must be burning from trying to take all of this down. And at times, Ms. Hobron has also been somewhat difficult, occasionally, much less often than Mr. Wolf, but speaking fast. So I need y'all to be more cognizant and more respectful of the fact that during a Zoom hearing, once one person starts to speak, it cuts off the other microphone. It is physically impossible for her to hear, much less to record people speaking over each other. So I just want to interrupt you to express I'm very unhappy with the jobs that you're doing. I'm not sure it happens, but I've interrupted several times to correct it, and you've ignored those corrections. So this is a final warning. I am in control of this courtroom.
Okay, I have to say something right now because okay, so this lady would not be a good boss for me. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that right now. I don't think she's out of line. I think she's in line. We are 2 hours and 15 minutes into this hearing, and she is only just being authoritative like this. She's saying, I run this hearing. Well, sweetheart, who the fuck's been running it for the last 2 hours and 15 minutes? Because this happens to me at some jobs or places sometimes where I'll talk for a long time and then like finally or like eventually somebody will say something and then later they'll be like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that at all. And I'm like, well, you have to say that earlier. Like, you can't let me go for 2 hours and 15 minutes and then be like, you're doing a terrible job. You're literally terrible at this. I can't believe we've been listening to you for 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'm actually in pain. Like, I was like taken aback because what she could do is interrupt every time they do it. That's how other judges do it. So every single time they start to speak over each other, just stop the proceedings. Guys, again, there is a court reporter here. She cannot take down two at once. Like, you have to nip that shit in the bud. 2 hours and 15 minutes setting down ground rules. What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm getting very like I'm disappointed in you vibes, like mom vibes, but those never worked on me. I'm disappointed in myself too, don't worry.
And if I find that you continue to be disrespectful of the court reporter, I have at my discretion the ability to handle it as I see fit. Okay? Do we understand the court? Mr. Wolf?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Hoprin?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Okay, I don't. We're going to watch that little reprimand rebuke one more time because I actually don't understand it, Judge. It's like you literally just, did she sneak a candy? Was she low on insulin or low on sugars or something? And then she literally just snuck a candy a minute ago and now she's like, I'm fucking dealing with this.
So I just want to interrupt you to express I'm very unhappy with the jobs that you're doing. I'm not sure it happens, but I've interrupted several times to correct it, and you've ignored those corrections. So this is a final warning. I am in control of this courtroom, and if I find that you continue to be disrespectful of the court reporter, I have at my discretion the ability to handle it as I see fit. Okay? Do we understand the court? Mr. Wolf?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Hoprin?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. All right. If I understand correctly, Mr. Wolf does not care to testify on redirect at this point. And Mr. Wolf, you don't have other witnesses to call in your case in chief?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So you rest at this point?
The rest at this point, Your Honor, yes.
Okay. Ms. Hoprin, you may call your first witness.
Your Honor, we are not sure who has survived the wait.
Fucking just terrible start, Haley. Haley, I don't know how often in your career you're going to get to go up against a pro se person, but this is your time to shine, sweetheart. You're going to get to do every easy objection in the book. This is going to be like that law school test that you practiced 57,000 times when you dreamt of being a lawyer. Okay? This is the slam dunk case that you can fucking win. So I'm I'm sad at your opening move. Lackluster.
Um, do we still know who's in the waiting room?
I do. Miss Watson and Ms. Martinez are in the waiting room.
Let's see. Apologies, Your Honor. The best laid plans. I'd like to call Desiree Lee Martinez to the stand.
Hold on. Let's be clear. Toboggan is not a term that Canadians use for a toque or a hat or a beanie. But I have heard Americans say that. But Canadians call toboggans are sleds or sleighs or a toboggan. Basically, you slide down a hill on it in the snow. A toque, Toque. That is what we call. Oh, I've got one right here. Hold on.
All right. Ms. Martinez, this is Judge Mangrum. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if you'd raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And before we proceed, can you confirm for the court that you have not had any conversations with either of the parties or with counsel during this hearing?
I have not.
Okay. And can you confirm that you were not watching the court's YouTube live stream?
I have not.
Okay. Ms. Hobron, you may proceed.
Ms. Martinez, how do you know the petitioner, Jeffrey Wolf?
I dated him.
Oh! Oh my God. You guys, I wasn't ready for this. Okay, okay. 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 No, a toque is not chef's headwear. A chef's hat we call a chef's hat. Literally. Like those really tall ones that are like white. We would call that a chef's hat. Wait, this is not his future fiance. This is his ex-girlfriend who's a witness for the soon to be ex-wife. Wow. Oh my gosh. Do you know how shitty your divorce has to be to get your ex-girlfriend to testify in it against you? Holy shit. Prepare yourselves for the shitstorm, people. Also, do you guys like this would be like a toque with a bauble, I guess.
What years were those?
2013 to 2019.
And did you cohabitate during this period?
Yes.
And how much of that relationship were you cohabitating with the petitioner?
About 5 years.
Toque is not a chef's hat name. Guys, come on. Are you serious right now? I'm very positive. Toque. I'm just.
Do you have kids from a previous relationship?
Oh my God, it is. That's called a toque. We only call that chef's hat. And we have, like, this is a toque. If I said, oh my God, that chef is wearing a toque, and every chef in the kitchen was wearing a white chef's hat, every single person that I know would say, what are you talking about? Nobody's wearing a toque. They would not agree. They would not agree. I'm being serious. I 1000% know that. I could do a hat lineup where I lined up different types of hats. And I didn't even include an actual toque in it. And nobody would ever pick the chef's hat.
Relationship,
I do.
and you have a possessory schedule with those children?
Yes.
Were those children staying with you while you were cohabitating with Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
How frequently was that?
Every other week.
Have you had the opportunity to personally witness the parenting style of Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Did you know the respondent, Jackie Wolf, during this period of time that you were cohabitating?
Yes.
How did you come to meet Jackie?
I met her through exchanging the kids, doing holidays and birthday parties together.
Would you say that you routinely collaborated with Miss Wolf when it came to the children's schedules?
Yes.
And how active was Mr. Wolf in these activities?
He was active.
Were there certain activities where he participated more than others?
Um, he was definitely there for like sporting events.
Did he ever schedule doctor's appointments?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you have to schedule doctor's appointments for
No, I
the,
did not.
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Did you ever have to schedule doctor's appointments for Braden or Connor while they were in your possession?
No.
Did you or Jeff ever assist Miss Wolf in enrolling the children in school?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Did Mr. Wolf or yourself, while you were collaborating, ever enroll the children in school?
No.
And why was that?
Jackie did that.
And did you feel comfortable not having to schedule doctor's appointments for the children because Jeff would handle those appointments if they were necessary?
Jackie would.
During that window of time, did you find it easy to coordinate and work with Jackie with coordinating the needs of the children?
Yes.
Did you ever witness her saying anything negative about Jeff to the children?
No.
Were you witness to the injury to Connor when he got hit by the baseball bat?
I don't recall anything like that.
Do you remember when Braden started having stomach issues?
Yes.
Did Jeff ever tell you anything about the stomach issues?
No, that was conveyed to me through Jackie.
Did you have any reason not to believe that they were a serious gastrointestinal situation?
No.
Did Jeff do anything around the house to help Braden with his stomach issues?
No.
Did your food schedule change or increased activity, physical activity with the kids together, or anything like that that would potentially assist Braden with these stomach issues?
I mean, sometimes I made him something else because he wouldn't eat what I made for dinner.
Would Jeff make something else for him, or would he require Braden to eat whatever was made?
No, Jeff would help make something.
Was there any sort of penalty for making something different if Braden couldn't eat what was on offer?
No.
If the children were having issues with school, did Jeff resolve them?
Ma'am, lawyer lady, let me just. If some sort of penalty? Are you joking? Can I tell you what would happen if a man or a woman that I was dating penalized. I'm laughing when I say it because it's so funny to me to think, like, I don't care your gender. I'm a pretty tough opponent. I tend to get what I want. And I'm a good teammate, but if I've decided on something that's best for my child or best for a child in my care, like I'm going to make this child different food because I've decided in my capacity with what we have here, I'm going to make something different. It's my energy that's making that child something different to eat, but I've decided I'm going to do it. If I like, I'm being serious. I don't know what fucking consequences you're talking about, lady. But if his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend had to worry about consequences for alternatively feeding a child, I think we have bigger things to worry about here. Now, I am a child who was made to sit at the table to finish a plate. I used to find the most creative methods of hiding food that I didn't want to eat. None of it worked to make me want to eat different foods. It only just made me upset and angry. I don't understand why that would even come up. Like, if somebody's, you know what I mean? Like, if you make another meal for a child, uh, like, the only way that would be a problem is if the other parent made it a problem. The child's not going to make it a problem. Oh my God, mom, you went to, or stepmom, you went to so much trouble to cook me this other meal that I actually enjoy. You shouldn't have done that. I'm going to tell on you. No, they're going to fucking eat the nuggies or eat the toast or eat the peanut butter sandwich or eat whatever it is that they can actually eat. And we also already know my stance on this, which is fed is best. So sometimes that means um, unhealthy food. Sorry. And then secondly, the other thing that's really important to understand there is the children of trauma. And I'm just going out on a limb here that these children might have a little bit of residual trauma, allegedly, in my opinion. They may have different weird vibes about food. You know that sometimes food is the only thing a kid might be able to control. What they put in their mouth, what they actually physically chew and swallow. Not what's put in front of them, but what they put in their mouth and choose to nourish themselves. And so it can be a control issue, it can be a many different things. And I can tell you that I remember as a kid fighting about eating food constantly, but I don't remember like just sort of food not being an issue. Food has always been an issue. Where am I? I'm here. I'm just off the screen. I'll be right back. These people are pissing me off.
Not that I'm aware of.
Are you aware of any situations personally where Jackie resolves school issues?
I know that boys would fall behind on homework at our house, and so she would spend a good amount of time working with the boys with homework.
Did you ever witness any incident where Jeff disciplined the boys?
Not that I remember.
Is that because the children were exceptionally well behaved, or there was just a general lack of discipline?
Maybe a lack thereof.
Were you allowed to discipline the children?
No.
And would he treat your children the same way that he was treating his children?
No.
How did he treat your children differently?
My kids got in trouble more. All three of them had to share a room, and each of his kids have their own room.
Did that create difficulties for the children while they were sharing the household?
Yes.
Do you think there's any?
Okay, well, that's who agreed to that. Did you have a baby or did you agree to that situation? Because there's there again, I guess I have one child, right? I have one child, in case any of you didn't know. I know I look so young. Oh my God, you have a child? You couldn't. She's a teenager? You're kidding. No, but seriously. And I've lived in a mixed household in terms of co-parenting, like two families that are trying to become a what do they call it? A melded family? I don't even know. Anyways, maybe because I only have one child, it was more simple. But if I had been moving in with Buddy and there wasn't enough bedrooms for all the children, well, that's a discussion for blended family. Thank you. That's a discussion for uh, the two adults to have first, isn't it? I'm trying to understand where the oversight came in because that sounds like a fuck up on your part that you didn't think about enough and you didn't put up enough of a fight for your kids. And then now you're saying, oh, that was not really fair. Well, who forced you to move in there? Again, I'm really, really, really confused. Because again, like, here's the thing. If you go to me and say, actually, what happened was we all lived in a house where we all had our own bedrooms, and then he made us downsize to this other, I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean, though. She agreed to the original setup, is what I'm saying. Well, I'm sorry. Again, this is like this is not going to go over well. I guarantee this is not going to be a good soundbite for me, but it's like women who do sexual favors or different favors for people or important people or whatever. And then 20 years later or whatever, they're like, "Oh my God, that was abuse." And it's like, "Really? Because weren't you flown to like a private island?" And all those different I mean, some of it's abuse, but like some of it's like you just like kept flying back to the island. So, like, is it more like a deal that you wish you had gotten more on? More on?
Been long-term consequences of your period of time cohabitating with Jeff?
No,
Did living with Jeff put stress on your co-parenting relationship with the father of your children?
yes.
How was that?
Um, different instances where like we might have broken up and gotten back together. And their dad didn't really approve of that.
Was there an incident where you and one or more of the children were locked out of the household?
Yes.
Can you please tell me what happened?
Well, I don't actually want to tell you what happened because I have like checks to see if somebody else is possibly listening other than the people on the internet interwebs. Um, I have entry points because I forget keys all the time. Bitch, are you joking? You think that that's cute.
Went to a wedding for a friend and came back and he had changed the locks.
And which
Oh, see, that's a different fucking story. Forgetting your keys versus changing the locks? Again, I mean, I'm prepared for that because I'm a psycho, but the average person is not prepared for that.
children were with you?
My son, Kellen,
Were Braden and Connor there?
I don't remember.
And was there a reason that he changed the locks while you were out at a wedding?
I think we had gotten into an argument about something, but I don't remember what it was.
Can somebody please remind me to add an actual red flag to my Amazon wish list? I want a red flag. I need somebody to find me a red flag that I can wave around like this. Because if ever, oh my God. But not only does that show how crazy he is, but that's just a really crazy level for an adult to subject a child to, no matter the age. Again, remember this. He doesn't need to fucking change the locks without talking to her first. He could break up with her and say, "Hey, listen, we got in a fight. I know that when you come back from the wedding, we'll discuss it. I would like you to move out. We'll have to talk about how we talk to the kids about it, but I am absolutely done with our relationship because of XYZ." Now, we know that that's not what happened. That is the adult mature thing to do if you've decided, "Hey, you know what? This relationship is no longer tenable for me. I must extract myself and my children from it, and I must do that in the least detrimental way possible." You don't go and change the locks knowing that an adult with a child, no matter the age, is going to be coming back to find that. That's really cruel. That's in fact alarming. And illegal, I would imagine, in most jurisdictions because they're likely legal tenants and would be subject to landlord tenant proceedings in the various jurisdictions that they're located in and not subject to an immediate eviction based on your whim. So the fact that you either are changing the locks on your own, like it just doesn't make sense to me. If I was them, the police, you could call the police. They'd probably tell you could break in. I imagine they'd say, well, this is your house, this is on your driver's license, you can break in here, and they would allow you to break in. I would have already broken in. I'd be like, oh my god, your dad, as I break the window, forgot to leave the door unlocked, and we had that locksmith coming today. Oh my god, so silly. Or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Again, my whole point is that you don't involve children in your shit, in your craziness, in your drama. So the fact that a child lives in that house means you don't get to just change the locks. That's actually it. And like the ability to not do that and to have the adult conversation later and be like, "No, you're leaving. Our relationship is over. These are the ways that we're going to do that." You will uh would allow them to be at such a higher point in the separation. Jonathan Miller, so the client whose husband threw her out of the marital residence and changed the locks. Now, in the moment, he might have felt in the right, but in hopes the judge or a TPO, I would imagine that's where TPO hearings come into play to eject somebody from the marital residence. Actually, I know in fact that's not the way that TPOs are meant to be used, but we know in reality, TPO hearings are often used as de facto eviction hearings because when somebody is arraigned or brought in on a charge and then issued a TPO, a temporary protective order, where they've also been given a stay away from a certain location, their bond conditions are such that it's a de facto eviction. And so it is a common method that people utilize to circumvent properly evicting a tenant from a place. There are ways in almost every jurisdiction to get a tenant evicted. Your client got the locksmith to change rekey the locks. Perfect. And again, she has as much right to that place as him. So if she's able to do that, that's great. And if she's not worried about him being crazy and abusive, then that's perfect. And then I would fight fire with fire like that too. I mean, obviously ring cameras or cameras around would be the ideal situation. You know, I used to work for a security camera company, and I remember one of the engineers told me, what did he say? Wait. Okay. So, no, what happened was this. I worked at the engineering company and hi Jessica. The engineering company that I worked for did security systems all over the world. And I remember talking with the different guys about different things, and I brought up something. I was like, "Oh, I saw this video of people breaking into a place and they broke the cameras." And they laughed at me and they said, "For every camera you see, there's 3 cameras you don't." And I remember later at a different job, a task was to map out security cameras on the on like a layout of the building. And I was just like, "But what about the secret ones?" And they were like, "What are you talking about?" And I was just like, I don't know if they're just like not doing good security or whatnot, but they were pretending like they had none of the non-visible security cameras. Um, that actually reminds me of another story that I'll tell later. But Jonathan Miller says the client filed a petition for a personal protective order, PPO. But on the date of the hearing, she insisted that I asked the judge to dismiss her petition. A very common outcome, unfortunately. So, what I would like to point out here is this: domestic violence is abhorrent and apparent to people that have not grown up watching people be abused. When you have watched people be abused, you've normalized that and you cannot easily unlearn that behavior. And that's why it's so difficult for people that have had a normal childhood. And I don't mean that in a bad way, I mean that in a good way. But if you have a hard time putting yourself in the shoes of a child who's scared about what's happening in their own house, then that's good. That's good for you. But that is not the case for a lot of people. And a lot of people then go into this trauma bond with an abuser, and they don't want uh to leave that person because they've been, I mean, I'm not talking, you don't even understand. When somebody spends every single day telling you something over and over again, you fucking listen. And you don't realize you're like, because here's a great example: negative self talk. You can literally talk yourself and make yourself think that you are stupid, dumb, idiotic, whatever, if you do it every day. It's much harder to talk positively to yourself, and people don't often do it, especially if you naturally go to negative self talk. But my whole point, and what I'm trying to explain, is that we need to figure out a different way to help people leave abusive situations, is all I'm trying to say. Because obviously, what we do right now has an absolutely abysmal failure rate. It just does. We constantly have people of all genders going back to situations that most people look at from the outside going, "What? Oh, why? Way? No." So that tells me we're not reaching the right message to the right person. So we have to change the message. We have to change it somehow. And maybe the problem is that people that are trying to make the message are not in trauma or normal, executively functioning normal, or not ever. There's so many different thoughts on that. Anyways, my whole point is that it doesn't surprise me that Jonathan Miller has had a client who retracted her statement about a PPO on something that she was probably emphatic about in the moment. This is, again, it's similar to addiction. You can't wait to get help for having an addiction if you at a moment decide that you're done and you are able to like be done. Believe me, if every addict had the absolute ability to say to somebody, quote unquote somebody, I'm done. I'm quitting drugs. I'll go into treatment. I will do it right now. And they didn't have to worry about the cost of whatever. And it was available the minute they said that, we would have a better rate of sobriety. But we don't. We have a system that doesn't allow that to happen. And so people waver. You know, you have to catch that little wave. It's like surfing. You know, surfing isn't really fun most of the time. Surfing is a lot of waiting and trying and failing. And then once in a while, you do this really awesome thing that you're just like, yeah, that was fucking cool. And then you go back and you try and do it again, but you wait a long time again.
If the children had some sort of unique need while you guys were in possession, would that be something that you two would handle, or something that you would tell Jackie to handle?
I think Jackie would handle that.
Do you feel like she would accept help from the both of you if you offered to do more?
Yes.
Did you or Jeff ever offer to do more?
We have, yeah.
And what was that more? What did that look like?
Like we would even go and help her clean her house because she was going to school full time and working full time and she just needed help.
Do you feel like she needed help because she was overwhelmed with responsibilities, or because she was negligent?
Probably just overwhelmed.
Did it ever give you any concern about the health and safety of the children in her care?
No.
Was she flexible with any scheduling requests that you or Jeff made to change the possession schedule in a given week?
Absolutely.
Also, we got to get Jonathan Miller. Do we have Jonathan with a command as well? Lisa, apparently they were together till 2019 and then they stopped being together. Also, I guess, I mean, I don't know. Again, this is nasty. I don't like this. Night, Chris Engelby. Thank you so much as usual. I love all your comments. It's so humbling to read all your guys' comments. I know I read them all, so thank you. But seriously, I mean, I was a young mom. I got married young or got together young. I got married and then we got divorced. But we didn't do any of this shit and thank fucking God. I mean, I love it, the drama, but I hate it as well. And the judge wants to pretend like she has control of this courtroom. She doesn't have control of this courtroom. Jessica. I mean, Jessica, here, let me talk to you, okay? Listen, you did good. You obviously learned a lot. You went to school, you became a lawyer, you became a judge at a fairly young age. You are accomplishing a lot, but you're still named Jessica. So you've always had 5 other girls in your class with the same name, and you've had to be like, I'm Jessica M. I'm the one going to law school. I'm the lawyer. I'm Jessica M. Like, that's, Jessica, you need to like own this courtroom. You're not owning it. You're not owning it.
Would you depend on her to be understanding and flexible?
Yes.
Was Jackie allowed possession during holidays when you first started dating Jeff?
No.
How did Jackie end up getting any sort of possession during holidays?
I insisted that she get to share the time.
And how long did it take before holidays started being shared?
Mm, I don't remember. Probably we got together in July. I would think maybe like the following year.
From your experience, is Jeff heavily dependent on Jackie handling the majority of responsibilities for the children's decision making?
Can you rephrase that?
Yeah, from your experience assisting the two of them with co-parenting, was Jackie is Mr. Wolf heavily dependent on the labor and time and effort that Miss Wolf puts into managing the children's affairs?
Yes.
Does he make that job easier or worse or harder for her?
More difficult.
Do you have an example that you can think of, or is that just a general things are harder to navigate with Jeff?
I think in general, like, I guess I can maybe say as far as like exchange times, like if we were supposed to exchange at a certain time, it never really was at that time.
Have you heard Jeff saying things about Jackie in front of the children that were disparaging or alienating?
Not that I can remember.
So you feel pretty comfortable that in general, at least during the window when you were with him, the parties were respectful of each other's roles as parents and didn't say things to the children in order to create a gap between their relationships?
Not that I can remember.
And it's completely acceptable if there are things that you don't remember or to the degree that you feel confident in your statements. If Jackie was awarded primary possession on a standard schedule, so she had the boys more frequently, do you think she'd be able to handle that responsibility?
Yes.
Do you think that from your experience with the boys, that would create significant hardship for them if the schedule was changed?
No.
In your experience, then the boys have proved fairly flexible with the changes in the visitation schedule in the years it's been going on.
Yes.
If the roles were reversed and Mr. Wolf was ordered to have greater access to the children and limiting Jackie's possession period, do you think he'd be able to accommodate those additional responsibilities?
Yes.
And do you think that in order to accommodate those responsibilities, he would require assistance heavily from both his...
Miss Carrie, thank you for the late fee. Also check your Discord. I just sent you a message. Thank you. Also, hi Mikey. Yeah, it's a shit show tonight. I hope you're doing well. What did everybody have for dinner? Mikey, what did you have for dinner? Carrie, Miss Carrie, what did you have for dinner? Also, this is a toque. Let's all learn together. Oh my God, I can't even.
Paramore and Jackie in order to do that?
Yes.
And is your opinion on that, just establishing this is your present sense impression on this party, is your opinion based on your experiences of trying to work with the two parties and the division of labor there?
Yes.
Right.
Thank you, Miss Carrie.
I pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Wolf, any questions you have for Ms. Martinez?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Ms. Martinez, can you tell the court, please, what you've told me over those years about how you thought Jackie handled her living situation and what her living situation looked like especially when we cleaned it?
I mean, it was not organized. I think after we helped her, it stayed organized.
Would you say that there was clutter to where it was a fire concern, especially up the stairway, and within the exits of that apartment? Or
No,
concern
there's a walkway through there.
Sorry, repeat.
I do. There was a walkway.
Do you recall the roach situation and the severity of that? Or in your words, what would be the severity of the roach situation at the residence?
There were roaches, yes. But being in property management, roaches don't necessarily come from the source. It could come from other places. And I do believe that she did request to move from that residence.
Do you believe that she brought it to the apartment's attention enough times where as a parent you would feel that enough was done to justify the fact that it was years that she lived in those conditions?
I don't believe it was years, and I do know that she brought it to the attention of the maintenance.
Would you allow your children to be in that situation at that residence for that amount of time that she was living there?
I don't think that she was negligent. I would.
The question was, would you allow your children
Action,
to?
Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Overruled. You may answer the question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, as a mother, would you allow your children to live in those conditions for the amount of time that Braden and Connor were left to be there?
Yes.
What was your opinion that you mentioned so many times to me about how Jackie handled her parenting?
Can you repeat the question or rephrase the question, please?
Sure. Would you say you had any concerns about Jackie's way of parenting over the time that you were with me?
No.
So you never brought up any concerns?
No.
Any lack of care, any lack of habits with food, any lack of providing for the children, especially
No.
when it comes to food? All right. Now, regarding the situation with the bedrooms, do you deny that before you even moved in, I mentioned reasons why I needed to keep those rooms theirs individually, and that I would allow any other shared space, or that I offered to create a shared space with what I could do for your kids when they were living here?
Yes.
You deny that?
No, I don't deny that.
Okay, sorry.
I thought the original question was if I understood that there were those stipulations when we moved in or whatever.
Do you feel that those stipulations were made because I cared less about your kids or wanted less for your kids? Or which at the time were what I
Objection relevance? Why do we care about her fucking kids?
thought of as our kids?
Say that again.
Would you feel that I did that for any reason that do you feel I did that intentionally to differentiate my kids over your kids when I was explaining the reason why I needed to have that in place?
Yes.
Was it not your choice at that time that I brought forward this quandary that we, I guess, now have, and the feelings that you had? Do you not think you had a choice to decide to live there or not? Was it not your choice to come into this home with those conditions?
Yes.
Okay, like I made the same point earlier, but Jonathan's got a really good point here. This is why you need a lawyer. When you're self-represented, when you're questioning a witness, no matter what really is happening, it doesn't fucking look good, dude. It never looks good. If you paid a lawyer to do this, it would at least be coming from somebody else, at the very least. And that is a buffer. that lawyer is able to be like, I'm a fucking lawyer. I have to ask these questions. You are, yeah.
What were the reasons why I relayed those requirements or needs that I had to absolutely keep that way?
Because you don't want things to change for your kids.
I don't know if I could speak to what I said, but or the reasons, but it was the fact that my kids did not have a space of their own at their mother's, and that at your ex-husband's house they had their own space.
No question asked. Narrative. Well, it's not really a narrative, but the party is going on a narrative instead of asking the witness questions.
Let me rephrase. Did I not state? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine. You can rephrase. I would say it does seem like we're veering a little bit off topic, Mr. Wolf.
I guess I'm speaking to the validity of her claim that I treated her kids differently or I cared more about my kids than hers. I just want to speak to the fact that there were reasons for that.
Well, you're not testifying, so you can't do that now. You can ask her a question that you think might give the court some information about that, but I mean, I'm just not sure how relevant her kids versus your kids. Each party here has a motion to modify. There is a
Tiny Piggy, good question. So when somebody sits there without a lawyer, they are not necessarily a sovereign citizen. There is a absolute mechanism built into the US judicial system that allows somebody to represent themselves in court. It is not recommended, but it is absolutely allowed, and it's nothing that is reflective upon any sort of belief in any system necessarily. It's one of the choices that you have. What you have to understand when you represent yourself in a court of law is that you're held to the same standard that a lawyer would be. You don't think you will be, but you will be. And you don't realize how much shit lawyers learn, but they learn a lot. So what happens is pro se people end up floundering sometimes. A sovereign citizen is a different person, or is a person with beliefs that they themselves are exempt from the laws and rules of the United States. What's interesting is that a sovereign citizen technically would not be entitled to the same if we went by their system. Oh well, you on your own, you don't want to play with our game, sure, no problem. You don't get to represent yourself, we just get to assign whatever to you. Like, the whole point is that the system allows them to be idiotic in an unfortunate way. I think that there is a standard sort of common thread amongst sovereign citizens when it comes to operating a motor vehicle and insuring and licensing that motor vehicle, because there's this weird thought that because back in the day the wording was a little bit different, that they don't have to do that. But in fact, the right to travel, which is what a sovereign citizen will often bring up, is not true. You do have that right to travel as an American citizen. If you live in Florida, you have that damn absolute right to travel all the way over to Washington State in the other corner. You can go down into Texas. You can travel all over that beautiful country of yours. You can even go to Alaska. Now, if you want to do it in a car, you're going to need to make sure that car is licensed for where you're driving. And so are you, the person driving. But if you want to walk there, you want to take a bus, take a train, take a horse, you can do that. Seriously. And that's where I think the problem remains, is because people are like, well, I can travel anywhere. Yeah, but not in a fucking car. But so sovereign citizens will say that they have the right to travel all over the place, but in reality, again, they're relying upon these laws that they then disavow. It's crazy. Right, Jonathan Miller? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Burden for either party to meet in order to have the court grant a motion to modify. And so that's really where we need to focus our efforts.
Sure. I will rephrase, Your Honor. I apologize. Ms. Martinez, was there ever a time that you could state where I was asked to be a part of something or help with something where I refused in regards to
No.
Jacqueline? Would you say that I ever turned down the ability to be a part of something or help with something if it was made known to me?
In regards to what?
A need for the kids, something that needed to be done for the betterment of them, or for something that they needed, where I would have said or not been interested in helping.
No.
Okay, Mr. Wolf, I need to interrupt. It's 5 p.m. It's the end of our workday. So it does not sound like we are through with Ms. Martinez. So let's go ahead and discuss. Ms. Hobron, you have a hearing tomorrow morning at 9:45 in the morning. How
Yes.
long do you believe that will last?
I have not been given a specific time, but we're having to review about 20, 30 years of medical records. So at least 2 hours, at most 3 before it'll be concluded. So I should be, and I'll need a break. So that should be done no later than 1 p.m., the very latest.
Okay. I really don't want to start at 2, but I don't. I know it would be difficult to go back to back, so I'm not really sure.
It could be faster, but I did something similar with my father, and it took almost 2 hours for regular claim. So
Okay, let's say we're going to plan that the hearing will start at 1. And if the hearing is still going at noon, I need you to email Ms. Seeger and let her know that. And then I can decide whether I will push the hearing to 1:30 or to 2. But in any case, it would be no later than 2.
yes, Your Honor. And I think that with the opportunity to do so much cross-examination with Mr. Wolf, that aside from our witnesses, I think that we can speed things up. And I don't know how much time I have left. I think it's only like half an hour to present myself.
It's a little less than an hour, closer to 50 minutes.
All right. Yeah. I think we should be able to wrap up everything we need to do, and I'll try and consolidate tonight to kind of narrow the issues so that we can be efficient tomorrow, and I will drink less coffee so I do not talk as fast.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Wolf, you can attempt to address the Zoom screen share issue this evening, see if you can figure that out. I don't have any advice for you. I'm not sure that I've ever seen what happened when you attempted to share. I have not seen that before. So I don't know if it's particular to your device that you're using or a version of the Zoom software, but have never seen that. So I'm unable to help troubleshoot it, unfortunately. So we will plan to resume tomorrow at 1 p.m., same Zoom link. Ms. Hobron, if you are still in the other proceeding at noon, you need to let Ms. Seeger know. Of course, when you email her, you must copy Mr. Wolf as well. Goes without saying, but a number of people forget that whenever you communicate with the court or the court staff, cannot be ex parte and everybody must be copied. So please remember that. And yes, before we resume tomorrow, let me say 2 competing motions to modify. The court inquiry is there a material and substantial change? I've heard a whole lot of testimony. I'm not sure that the focus has been on material or substantial change. Heard a lot of people one parent unhappy with the other parent. Both of you are asking to be sole managing conservator. Texas law has a very high benchmark to get to be appointed sole managing conservator. So testimony needs to
Oh,
be
Judge.
targeted towards the issues that
Judge, I'm trying to explain what sole managing conservatorship is, and you're interrupting me. And honestly, you were earlier reprimanding people about interrupting, and I don't appreciate it. So, Jessica, this is your final warning, and I want you to understand that if you continue interrupting me, I can take action. Anyways, a sole managing conservatorship in opposition to what is the standard, which would be a joint managing conservatorship, is where one parent is given sole legal and physical custody of the child and decision-making powers for that child. In Texas, the standard is that even though a parent may not have um, a lot of visitation with the child, they would still be a joint managing conservator. Um, in order to overcome that presumption, there needs to be some egregious act on the other side in order for it to be in the child's best interest for not both of their parents to be involved in decision making. I mean, just think about what I just said there. What they're each asking is that that they both think that neither of each other is good enough to make decisions for the kid. That's just sad. But that's what they're asking for. Sole physical custody is one thing, but legal custody is a totally different thing. And if you've ever watched Judge Webster from Texas, who I watch quite frequently, he is always reminding people that the presumption is that a father, generally a father, the non-custodial parent, will indeed get access to a child, will indeed get visitation, if it even has to begin on a sliding sort of scale, and then will eventually get standard visitation and be part of that child's life. Texas is in fact pretty good about that. If you get to a court in Texas, there's a heavy presumption towards joint managing conservatorship in Texas. It is hard to overcome. I would say that.
you are trying to get the court to rule one way or the other on. That's all I'll say about that. Those are all things you can find in the family code, and we'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Any questions before we leave the proceedings?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Wolf, anything from you?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Everyone is excused until 1 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, that might actually be correct. 1 p.m. tomorrow. I think we will resume for the rest of it. Which state is it that you don't have to prove paternity? Well, in this case, I think, or in this state, for example, paternity is presumed if there is a marriage. So, for example, if you were married at the time of conception or birth, autistic Shill, what are you doing? There we go. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, you're making me not leave right away. Okay, I'll talk for another 2 minutes. Thank you so much for the gifts. That is so awesome. Which state is it that you don't have to prove paternity? So it's not that you don't have to prove paternity, but in Texas, paternity is assumed or presumed in a marriage. And so what that means is that there is a difficult hurdle to overcome if you want to change the paternity in Texas after it's been established based upon a child born of a marriage. Um, you know, the reason I know quite a lot about the Texas family code, which is weird. Um, again, I live in Canada. I live in Canada. No, I'll say for a couple minutes. Honestly, I'm having a great time. I just feel like I talk too much some of the time. But we've finished this part of this and I'll just talk a little bit. If you guys don't want to be here, thank you for coming. Make sure you hit the like button, leave a comment. But I live in Canada, but I spend a lot of time on the internet, on the interwebs. And in Texas, they used to have the fucking juiciest court. I'm not kidding you. You know, people will talk about the pandemic in like a negative way, but I will talk about it in the sense of like the online court was epic. Okay. I could spend all day hopping from fucking juicy case to juicy case to juicy case all over the country, and I couldn't even get most of it. I remember like just literally jumping from courtroom to courtroom to courtroom. And Texas was one like the bread and butter at the time because Texas has, I don't know why. I guess I don't know why. I guess it's populated, heavily populated. I think that's part of what we have to think about when we think of Texas. Um Texas courts. Like there's a lot of people in Texas. I imagine if somebody would look that up, is there more people in Texas than there are in Canada? I'm gonna guess that there are. I'm gonna guess that there are. Now, in Georgia, here's what I will say. In Georgia, we understand that paternity is different. So, in the state of Georgia, uh, even if you are in a relationship with somebody, even if you sign the birth certificate acknowledging paternity in the state of Georgia, you have to file what is called a what the fuck? Why can't I think of what it's called? An application of paternity? What is it called? Anyways, you have to file petition of paternity in order a petition to establish paternity. Thank you. A petition to establish paternity. Because what happens is, even though you may have signed the birth certificate, supported the child the whole time it's been alive, et cetera, if there's a breakdown in the relationship, you have to establish paternity in Georgia via a lawsuit. Now, it's not a difficult process. That's what I'll point out. People look at that and say, "Oh my gosh, that's hard. That's too much." Like that's saying a lot. But in reality, it's not a difficult legitimization. Thank you, Debs. Thank you, Debs. Legitimization. But basically, it's not a difficult process once you file the lawsuit. If you are the father and you follow the processes of the court, you're gonna have access to that child. What's unique about the state of Georgia, and I think that stands out to most people, is that prior to legitimizing the child, they will in fact enforce child support. So they are not exclusive to the other. Just because Georgia says, "Hey, buddy, you fucking owe us for that kid that you had over there, and we're going to dock your pay, or we're going to fuck up your license, or we're going to do this, that, and the other." That legal proceeding is completely separate from the legitimization proceeding, which is where the father earns or establishes the rights to see the child. And so what sort of crazy dichotomy is when a father might want to see his child in Georgia, have been involved in that child's life most of its life or all of its life, but yet has to file the legitimization suit in order to establish that. Yet prior to them filing legitimization, they may already be being pursued for child support. And that is where we hear that a lot. So when we hear child support dockets where people are getting in trouble for not paying their child support, you often find people that complain about not having access to those children. And again, I think that Texas has a good take on this compare like for what I've seen comparatively to Georgia. In Texas, when the child support is being dealt with by the state, so is visitation. The lawsuit being served upon the person to establish child support payments is also inclusive of visitation or time spent with the child. It is smart to me to join those things and combine them because they as much as we want to pretend they're not connected, they are in the sense that they contain the same parties. And so for judicial efficiency, absolutely it makes sense to make sure that you take care of all of that at once. And so a lot of times you'll hear guys in Texas complain about not getting to see their children. And Judge Webster will stop them in their tracks and explain, oh, well, this does that. We don't do one without the other here. Now, in Georgia, it's the complete opposite, is my point. So in Georgia, it is very common to hear a judicial officer or a judge issue a order where she makes somebody or he makes somebody pay for a child, but can have no impact on how often they see that child. And again, I think that that's a disconnect in the system there. Now, Georgia has some really interesting laws and legal, I don't know what to call them. I would call them a legal fjord. You guys know what a fjord is? If you have So, for example, Georgia is one of the only states that allows a civilian warrant application. And that is where a person, a lay person, not a lawyer, not a judge, not a police officer, brings forth a case to a judge and says, I want this person arrested. Well, in most places, when you say that, they say, okay, well, go talk to the police. That's what the police do. That's the job of the police. But in Georgia, they very specifically have a subset of the courts that is specifically for that. And we've watched those civilian warrant applications before. They're very interesting. They don't result ever in somebody being arrested immediately. I'm sure that that's what most people wish when they're going, I'm going to get this person arrested. And they find, oh, I can apply for my own application to get them arrested and this and that and the other. And it doesn't work like that. But what I think is interesting to me is that Georgia is, I guess, not lenient, but like open in their court system in certain ways that other courts aren't. So to be able to apply for the civilian warrant application, that's just a huge burden. I mean, honestly, the amount of those hearings that I've watched that have resulted in an actual warrant being issued is negligible. I would imagine that I've watched way more be done that have never resulted in in a warrant. But yet, how much money does it cost to run those hearings? The support staff, the judge, the administration, all of that kind of stuff. Now, is it less money to run those hearings than it is to deal with people calling in to the police department wanting people arrested all the time? Like, is it better to be able to say on the phone, like, oh, you can submit this application, as opposed to saying on the phone, like, you're fucked? Like I wonder those questions, that's sort of where sometimes I think people want to be heard. When I worked in government, this is the last story that I'll tell tonight before I end it for the evening. We've been going almost 3.5 hours, if you can believe that. Time flies when you're having fun. But I worked in government and I answered a lot of queries and questions from people. And I remember recognizing very early on, like these people just want to be heard. They want somebody at a phone number that they call to answer the phone and listen to their problem. And they don't expect that person to solve the problem, but they do expect somebody to listen to that problem. And I bet if you implemented a complaint hotline where people could just call and nothing would happen necessarily except they would be heard and somebody would write it down, that a bunch of the correspondence burden would be alleviated in multiple departments. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, I'm talking about like the health department and the mental health department and all these different things that are bogged down with letters of complaint and letters of issue, and nobody's actually going to help those people. You're all just shuffling them around. And so if you're going to shuffle them around and not help them anyways, why don't you not help them in the most constructive way possible, which would be starting a call center or a phone number where they can call and be heard." I even said, "I'll answer the phone. I'm really good at listening and talking." But they shut that down. I don't know why. Anyways, you guys listen. It has been a wonderful evening. I love you all so much. We do have the continuation and final part of this hearing tomorrow. I think we'll get to the final part, even if we have to do it in 2 parts. Again, thank you all for your support. It really means a lot. I love you guys so much. We've had a great time. Remember that I love you, I'm proud of you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. I think my tongue is blue from the Gatorade that I've been drinking. I said bye.